Yes, it is Florida, even though it's only 59 degrees today on the Treasure Coast. The new-look Miami Marlins are in town as the Mets continue to wend their way through spring training. David Wright has made his way to the WBC, but still plenty of Mets trying to win jobs and impress with not only their ball playing, but maybe their moves as well. At Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie, Florida, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball. Today, the Mets play the Miami Marlins. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you today. Our first Pix telecast of the season as the Mets take on their division rivals, the Miami Marlins. One of the key questions for the Mets in spring training is not only who's going to play the outfield, it's who's going to lead off. We've seen Kirk Neuenhuis in that spot, Jordany Valdespin. Today, Colin Cowgill gets a chance to lead off for the Mets. He's been very impressive so far.
Well, acquired from the Oakland A's in the offseason, Colin here has had a terrific spring. Great start, I should say. He's 7 for 13 with 3 doubles and 2 stolen bases, a home run to add to that, too. And he showed the hustle that he came over with, that reputation of being a hustling player. He's shown that. He's leading off.
He's only 5'9", but he packs a punch. He's always been a 3 and 4 hitter. He's just making the adjustment to being a leadoff guy and trying to show Terry Collins he can thrive in that role. On the mound, a guy who thrived for his first 10 big league starts last year and is going to be a huge part of the Mets rotation this year. That, of course, is Matt Harvey.
Well, Matt Harvey last year was only 3 and 5, but in those 10 starts, in 59 and a third innings, struck out 70, and that's over 10 per 9 innings, and that is awesome. There's only one other Met rookie to do that, and of course that would be Dwight Gooden in 1984.
And then there's the Miami Marlins, the opposition today. They offloaded virtually all of their big league talent after last season. A big disappointment for them, their first year in the new stadium. Other than Giancarlo Stanton, all of their stars are gone, and they're starting from scratch.
Well, I made the count last night before I went to bed. There were 15 Marlins that were on the roster last year that are gone with this team. Now, Laurie has taken a lot of heat for this with all the changes. Of course, the big trade with Toronto had made Toronto fans happy. So the Marlins are projected to finish last. There's a whole lot of faces here that we don't even know about, and you'll be seeing them today.
They've got a lot of very good prospects they picked up in that deal with Toronto. We'll see some of them in the game this afternoon. It's the Mets and Marlins from Tradition Field. All the action coming your way on Pix 11. York Mets baseball is brought to you by Cadillac. Visit your Tri-State Cadillac dealer or CadillacTristate.com to learn more about our attractive lease or finance offers. By Time Warner Cable, to switch to Time Warner Cable and enjoy better. They're so sure you'll see the difference, they guarantee it. By Papa John's, order online at PapaJohns.com. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. And by H&R Block, come see what a difference their tax expertise can make. Mets single game tickets for the 2013 season at Citi Field are on sale now. Get your tickets for Mets opening day, the Subway Series, and the rest of the All-Star season. Tickets start at $12 at Mets.com or by phone at 718-507-TIXX. Mets will have Matt Harvey leading off on the mound today. The side armor Greg Burke will get a shot. Colin McHugh and Hansel Robles also scheduled to pitch for the Mets this afternoon as they take on the Marlins here at Tradition Field. Bundled up crowd in Port St. Lucie as we get ready for Mets spring training baseball. First game of the year on Pix, and the first pitch is coming right up. Let's check out the Marlins starting lineup, brought to you by Citi Thank You Cards. The 21-year-old outfielders Christian Yelich and Jake Marisnick in the top two spots in the batting order, while Brantley, who they picked up from the Tigers last year, is going to be their #1 catcher this year. In fact, right now he's their only catcher. They've even got the former Rookie of the Year Chris Coghlan in the lineup today.
And Matt Harvey gets his second spring start. Pitched against Houston his first time out, gave up a run, I think, in 2 innings. And there's his numbers from last year, and we made a note at the open that has 70 strikeouts and 59 1/3. We want to get the walks down, 26, a little high. But I think really just the world is his oyster. He has got it all in front of him, hard worker. And we'll take a look at the defense. It's brought to you by Verizon. Switch to Verizon Fios for America's fastest internet. I'm on it, so I think you folks out there should get on it. So anyway, Duda in left, he's back. 7th start in left field. It's a big spring for Lucas, off to a little bit of a sluggish start with the new batting stance, new take back. He struggled with it a little bit. Got a base hit the other day. Colin Cowgill, of course, we talked about him in center field. And Mr. Brown, Andrew Brown in right. Another guy that's in the mix for this outfield positions for the Mets. That there's a lot of guys fighting for spots.
Well, you have nearly a month to go till the season begins, and Terry Collins will get as much of a look at all these guys as he can. He'll have Marlon Byrd DHing today. Byrd has been swinging the bat well early in spring training as well. So, you know, when you've got positions on the line, it creates a lot of extra incentive, a lot of competition. It's sometimes a lot of fun to watch in spring training.
Well, it certainly is, and I think it's also advantageous for the Mets to have the WBC with the longer spring training, a longer look, more games this spring. So a longer time to get a look at all the players fighting for spots.
I like LaTroy Hawkins' take on it, though. He has yet to pitch in a game. He said just because spring training is a week longer doesn't mean I'll pitch in another week of spring training games. When you're 40, you get that dispensation. Christian Yelich leads off for the Marlins. 21-year-old left fielder. First pitch by Harvey is a fastball for a call strike. Chris Conroy is your home plate umpire. Gary Cedarstrom, the crew chief, James Hoy, and Mike Estabrook, a full major league crew for the game today. Yelich played an A ball down in the Florida State League here last year for Jupiter. Hit .329 with 12 home runs. A .402 on base percentage, a .516 slugging percentage. You can understand why the Marlins are very high on him.
And he also stole 20 bases, caught 6 times, so he can run. So looks like a player for the future.
Probably playing Double-A this year, and he cracks one to right field. Well hit. Brown goes back, takes a look, and that's back on the berm for a home run. Christian Yelich leads off the game with a home run off Matt Harvey.
Well, first pitch fastball. He didn't wait around. And with the way the wind is blowing, and it's blowing pretty good today, even though the flags aren't indicative of how hard it's blowing, it's going to be blowing out to right field.
Flags at half staff here at Port St. Lucie. A local police officer was shot and killed a couple of nights ago, and that's why those flags are hanging at half staff. So Yelich leads off the game with a home run. Now Jake Marisnick, and he takes a strike. Marisnick, one of the handful of players that the Marlins acquired in their big deal with the Blue Jays in the offseason. 21 years old, third-round pick by Toronto in '09. And Harvey misses low and away, a ball and a strike.
There's Tino Martinez right there. Hitting coach for the Marlins, former Yankee. He had some fine years with those, really the best Yankee teams when they had their run.
Tino said he was approached several times over the last few years by Jeffrey Loria about being the Marlins batting coach, and finally got to a place in his retirement that he was ready to come back to the game and fulfill that role.
One of the good guys too, Tino, class act, gentleman.
Tejada plays it on the backhand. Low throw, and Ike picks it out of the dirt nicely to get Marisnick for the first out of the game.
Well, I tell you what, Ike at first base is very accomplished, very good at the low throws in the dirt. Nice scoop. That's a kind of an in-between hop. And notice how he worked from the ground up with his glove. Nicely done, Ike.
You know, Ike did not have the greatest defensive year last year. And he talked about it this spring, about how between coming back from the ankle injury and feeling sluggish, whether it was the valley fever or whatever it was, that it cut down on his ability to make plays at first base, and he definitely wants to improve that this year.
Well, I felt he did regress in the second half defensively, and it was kind of ironic. Usually when a player struggles, that's when you find out who the guys are that don't take their offense out to the field. Ike played really good the first half of the season defensively and was woeful, had the terrible start the first half. And then the flip side, he had the great offensive second half, and his defense slid a little bit. So he can pick it over there, and he's accomplished. And I think it has a lot to do with David Wright having no throwing issues last year.
Rob Brantley, the number 3 hitter today for the Marlins. Here's Mike Redmond, the first-year skipper from Miami, former backup catcher with the Marlins and with Minnesota. Managed in the Toronto organization last year, so the Marlins not only picked up a host of players from the Blue Jays organization, they also got their manager from there. In fact, Redmond won a Florida State League title in Dunedin, managing in the Toronto organization last year. Always very personable. He's a pretty good hitter during his career. Taken inside by Brantley, 2-2.
Well, we talked about this Marlin team and the dismantling of the team, and the 15 players that were gone were part of that roster last year. Josh Johnson, Mark Burley, Emilio Bonifacio, Reyes. That was all part of that big deal to Toronto.
And of course, Brantley goes around, and Harvey has his first strikeout. Brantley came over in the earlier deal where Anibal Sanchez and Omar Infante went over to Detroit, but these are some of the names that have moved on. Hanley Ramirez, of course, traded to the Dodgers at midseason. Heath Bell, they got rid of somehow and got Arizona to take him off their hands.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the Zambrano's not back. Carlos Lee wanted to play and really lobbied, if you recall, last year how much he loved it in Miami. He didn't come back.
Here's Matt Downs playing second base today, and he takes up and away.
And the big one of all the moves that really helped the Cardinals was Edward Mujica went over to the Cardinals last year and had a terrific second half for them, where he was just not doing the job in Miami.
Well, they lost 93 games last year after spending a lot of money, and they decided to break it all down and start from scratch. Tejada throws out down, so Harvey bounces back after giving up the leadoff home run to Christian Yelich. 1-0 Marlins. There's your Mets starting lineup, brought to you by Citi. Colin Cowgill getting the chance to lead off today. Zach Lutz will play third base with David Wright now gone to the World Baseball Classic, which got underway last night. The U.S. plays their first game on Friday. Lucas Duda back in the lineup after missing one day with a medical issue, as the Mets go up against the 24-year-old right-hander Alex Sanabria.
Well, Sanabria last year was in the minor leagues, went 6-7. Got called up in 2010 and in 12 starts was 5-3. Last year just kind of regressed, 2 starts, and they shipped him out pretty quick. So he's trying to fight for a spot in the rotation. And we'll take a look at the Verizon Fios Marlins defense. Boy, you got a lot of new names in there. Coughlin, of course, was Rookie of the Year 3 years ago. He's out in right field. 2 youngsters out in the other positions. 2 veterans in the middle positions and down and green. Sean Figgins, Jace from Seattle, whose just career kind of went downhill.
Here's Colin Cowgill to lead things off to a hot start this spring. Had a double in the game yesterday. He's now 7 for 13 with 3 doubles and a home run. So Cowgill has made an impression already, getting a chance to lead off today. He had about 100 at-bats 2 years ago with Arizona, about the same last year with Oakland. Last year hit .269 for the A's, who are overloaded with outfielders, and dealt them to the Mets in exchange for a minor league third baseman, Jeffrey Marte. For Cowgill, the biggest adjustment that he has to make is to a leadoff hitter's mindset. He's a little guy who nonetheless has been a 3 or 4 hitter most of his life, and he drives this one to deep center field. Marisnik on his horse to the wall. Wow. He reels it in. Well, Tino Martinez was quoted earlier today as saying that Jake Marisnick right now might be the best defensive center fielder in baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a very deep, big ballpark, and he had a long way to run and got a terrific jump. And as you said, Gary, he made it look easy. He's shallow. It's a long way to go here.
And directly over his head.
On the track.
No angle at all. And that was a very tough play made to look very easy by Marisnick. That's an impression right there. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Ruben Tejada. Ruben 2 for 7 this spring with a home run. As he settles into that number 2 hole, that's where Terry Collins has had him mostly this spring. And he pops one up in the left field. And Yelich is right there waiting for it.
Well, I think the Ruben is more suited for the 2 position in the lineup. We said it yesterday, Gary. Hit and runs well. He hits the ball the other way. He can bunt. I don't think he's fast enough to be a leadoff hitter.
I mean, he spent a good chunk of last year as the leadoff hitter, and I think right now Terry considers him the fallback. If nobody else is able to take the reins and lead off, then he can always go back to Tejada.
Well, I have a feeling. I think Cal Gill's going to make this ball club, and I really feel that Valdezpine's going to make this club, and those 2 guys can lead off. You got a right and lefty. We'll see. A lot of spring left.
Here's Ike Davis. And he takes the fastball wide from Sanabia.
And Ike has been swinging the bat really well right out of the chute.
And Ike lifts one out to left center. Yelich takes charge. 3 fly balls, 3 outs for Sanabia, and he makes quick work of the Mets in the bottom of the first. After 1-0 Miami. Matt Harvey throwing in his warm-up pitches, getting ready for the second inning with Miami up 1-0, and we're very pleased to be joined from the Mets dugout by Tim Burdock, who's back in camp rehabbing shoulder surgery that he had last September. Tim, it's Gary and Keith in the booth. How are you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. You and I were talking earlier today, and it seems as though you are nicely ahead of schedule coming back from this surgery.
Yeah, we're really pleased at where we're at right now. Wasn't scheduled to pick up a ball till February 5th, but we were able to get a month ahead of schedule and stuff, and even now with the progression of what the throwing has done, we're a little bit farther than that.
Tell the folks a little bit about your rehab after the surgery. How long did you have to do nothing, and what did you do when first things you did, and how you upgraded it gradually?
The first month after the surgery, I couldn't do anything. I was in a brace, and there was just hanging out, and then finally we started going. It was very small movements that we could make for the first month, and things, like I said, for some reason my surgery was a little bit different than I think Chris and Johan's. I know that we had talked about. Mine was pulled off the bone, So it was easier for them to repair mine because all they had to do was just reattach it to the bone. It sounds crazy, but it wasn't torn in no man's land, so to speak, where we had to let it, heal by itself and really get that scar tissue to form to strengthen the capsule. So we had being the player rep for the team, we had our meetings up there in November. And I piggybacked it with going to see Dr. Alchek, and he checked me out and asked me to do a couple things with my arm. And when I showed him that I can do them, he was just amazed. And he told me that at that point he felt that right from then I was at least a month, if not a month and a half ahead of schedule.
Tim, when you get to the point in your career that you're at, and you know that you're facing major surgery on your shoulder, was it a difficult call to decide to have the surgery as opposed to just saying that's enough?
No, because I wanted to go home and at least at bare minimum is be able to play catch with my kids, my two boys, and have a normal productive life, so to speak, without having any kind of pain or anything, from hanging out with them or pitching BP to them or anything. So it was an easy call, but then when they found out that the surgery wasn't as bad as they thought, things were, took a nice turn for the better.
You've had a pretty good run of it, and for a good portion of the time the last couple of years you've been the lone lefty in the bullpen. Talk about that and what that's like when you're preparing day after day for basically being ready to pitch every day.
It's easier than it sounds, to tell you the truth, because you're going there knowing that, hey, there's a chance that I'm going to work every day out there. And you have that mindset of, make sure you get your rest, make sure you're preparing every day. Don't assume that you ever have a day off, and just make sure you're there for the team.
What's your feeling? What's your feel right now? If you looked ahead, the best scenario, when do you think you'd be back? Up on the mound pitching in competition. In competition, I'm hopefully going to be in competition June 1st. And hopefully, if everything goes well, maybe knocking on the door to the big leagues back there again, maybe by July. Being, like I said, this far ahead, it all depends on how far we need to take this. It's uncharted water for me as far as, what to kind of expect. I'm still talking to Johan in camp about some of the small things that have kind of come up and everything, and we'll kind of go one day at a time. When you get back to the Major League clubhouse here this spring, and you see everybody else competing for what has been your job, does it make it hard to hold back and not push harder than you should? No, you have to keep that frame of mind that, we're going to push it, but we have to keep it in that safe zone. Because if we go out of that safe zone, next thing you know that, look out. Hello. It's headed your way. You just got to keep it in that safe zone because you don't want a setback. I'm way too old for a setback that would cause me any more time. So we go as far as we can, but like I said, in that safe realm where we're not pushing the button too far. When you look around in that clubhouse and you see what they're trying to create here, what impression do you get? These kids have an opportunity to come in here and really do something nice. A lot of opportunity and stuff, and you have some older veterans too that are surrounding them, that are going to help teach them the right way to do things and to prepare and be ready. So they have a really good mix. It's my only second day back here and stuff like that, but the energy seems to be really high here, and the expectation should be as well. Harvey takes care of Kearns for the second out. One more question for you, Tim. Particularly with the young lefties like Edgin and Carson, is there anything you can do to help them along? Yeah, I'll sit and watch them throw bullpens, or I'll even watch them in the game and stuff. There's a couple things that we've kind of mentioned already as to what we can do to kind of disrupt the hitter's timing and stuff. I just lend an ear whenever they want to come and approach me, and like I said, I'll watch from the background and help them out as much as I can. Well, it's good to have you back, and best of luck as you continue to work toward your return. Thanks, guys. All right, Tim Burdack joining us from the Mets dugout. 39 years old, but he contributed so much over the last couple of years. You hope that he can be back in that mix sometime around midseason. Well, he was an important part of that bullpen, and as you said it, Gary, he was the only guy out there for a year and a half. Chris Coghlan pops one into shallow center. Coghlan with a dive, can't quite get to it. And Coghlan has a base hit, so Cowgill giving it every effort. But the Marlins have their second hit. Long way to go here, and that's just well placed. Good effort. Nice job backing up by Duda.
So after Harvey struck out the first two hitters here in the second, a pop fly single for the former Rookie of the Year Coughlin, and now the veteran Nick Green playing shortstop today. Green with his 8th different major league team, 34 years old. Got just 23 big league at bats with the Marlins last year. And Harvey pours one past him, 0-1. Second start for Harvey this spring. Pitched a couple innings against Houston a week ago, and it's kind of in that in-between mode, right? Because, you know, he only has 10 starts under his belt in the major leagues, and yet, despite being a young player and relatively inexperienced, he is virtually guaranteed a spot in the rotation at the beginning of the season. Well, so it's kind of that in between proving yourself and feeling secure enough to just go about your business in spring, right?
Yeah, but I still think deep down inside it'll be his first full season, and this will be the 10 games last year were terrific, but I still think Harvey feels he's got something to prove.
Even though it looks like he's been in the big leagues for 10 years.
He's very serious about it. He goes about his business very serious, very conscientious.
Turner squeezes the pop-up to end the top of the second, 1-0 Miami. Pod brought to you by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Visit CadillacTriState.com. And you could have predicted that, right? Jason Bay getting off to a fast start with the Seattle Mariners. Hit a home run in his first spring at bat. Has 2 already. Jason Hayward, Bryce Harper. You would have expected that.
Well, it is a little chill here. It says 59 degrees. And for Floridians, that'll get you to wear stuff like that.
If you've been down here and it's been 90 and your blood is thinned, yeah, 59 is cold. Marlon Byrd fouls it back. If you're in New York right now, 59 feels like summertime.
But the thing with when it's 59 down here is usually the cold front comes. It's strong enough to come all the way south from the northwest or north, and it's always windy. So there's a wind chill here, probably around 49. I know you folks up north aren't feeling too sorry for us.
I don't think you're getting any sympathy from the viewing audience today.
It was cold this morning.
It's supposed to get down to the 30s tonight. Yep. Marlon Byrd DHing today. He's been swinging the bat well in the early part of spring. 5 for 11. Figgins with the backhand play, and the long toss can't be dug out by Mahoney at first, and so Byrd is bored. Looking up and down this Marlins lineup that they brought here today, and really only the catcher, Rob Brandley, is a guy you figure will be on the field on opening day.
No, didn't get the arm over there to get it done.
Well, it's been a long slog for Sean Figgins ever since his all-star season with the Angels that got him a big free agent deal with Seattle. I mean, in 09, he had a magnificent season with Anaheim as Lucas Duda takes ball one. I mean, Figgins that year drew over 100 walks, had a .395 on base percentage, made the all-star team. A guy who can play just about anywhere for you. But then he signed a 4-year deal with Seattle, and his career went immediately downhill, and he's never really recovered. By the way, they scored that error on Figgins, allowing Bird to reach.
Well, Figgins' first year with Seattle hit .259, which was a drop-off, and then the last 2 years on the interstate, and they just quit on him the second half last year. He only had like less than 20 at-bats the second half of the season.
And they released him with a year to go on the contract. They're paying him $8 million this year to play for somebody else.
Well, he was complaining a lot about playing time, and I guess they got tired of it. Bit the bullet.
Lucas Duda sat out yesterday. He had to go see the doctor, an undisclosed medical issue, but right back in there today. The off-speed pitch by Sanabia fouled off. Lucas 1 for 10 to start the spring, and there's so much riding on Lucas's success because for all the outfield candidates the Mets have, Lucas is really the only guy who you figure could contribute big numbers in the power department.
Well, I just hope he doesn't put that all on his shoulders. It's kind of hard to get into Lucas's head to know what's going on with him. He's very quiet, reserved. You just don't want him. He's trying to get his feet wet on the big league level, and to put the kind of pressure on him. And this I will call pressure, that he's supposed to supply punch in the middle of the order.
Bird runs, Duda fouls it off. Did you notice, by the way, that when Dave Hudgens was working with him earlier in the spring, they had Duda resting his bat on his shoulder, trying to quiet himself down. Now he's back to wagging the bat again.
Well,
so
you know what?
Making that adjustment back.
You feel uncomfortable with it. It's hard to make changes in a stance. I remember Ralph Kiner, our colleague. Ralph's in Palm Springs right now. Hello, Ralph, if you're listening. I know Ralph watches. You don't change a hitter radically. He's hit one way. You make minor tweaks. To try to change someone completely. I mean, the one that comes to mind is Harry the Hat Walker when he was over with the Pirates, when he got Matty Alou from the Giants. And Matty Alou was a very slight guy, and he made him into a little slap hitter. And Matty Alou went on to win the batting title.
3-2. Bird runs, and Duda lifts one down the line, of foul ball. Well, what Duda found when he was resting the bat on his shoulder, what they found was he wasn't getting his foot down in time, and so he was late on everything, and he was striking out all over the place. So they took him off the field for a couple of days, back in the batting cages, and I guess this is the result now, that he's modified what he was doing a little bit to get back to getting his foot down on time.
It just reminds me of what I heard of what the difference between the regular golfer and the pro golfer. The regular golfer, he's thinking about his take back, his stance.
Gets under this one to center field, and Marisnik gets behind it and puts it away, and Bird goes back to first.
To complete the story real quick, it's the average guy out playing golf is always concerned about his take back, squaring up, all the swing. The pros, they're not even thinking about that. It's all natural. They're thinking the shot in front of them. So you can't have Duda all of a sudden thinking, okay, I'm not putting my foot down. It's just too much, and it's too much clouding him up.
It's like Yogi always said,
see the ball.
You can't think and hit at the same time.
And I remember Musial trying to teach hitting the minor league camp one time, and he was going, well, you know, this, that, and then finally, Stan, I was 18 years old. I told this story before, but it's a significant story, and I thought it was hilarious because of one of the great hitters of all time. He just threw the bat down and said, oh, shoot. He goes, let's just see the ball and hit it. Okay, Stan.
Reminds me of when I was broadcasting down in the Carolina League in the Braves organization. And at that time, Hank Aaron was the farm director for the Braves back in the mid-'80s. And he'd come by a couple of times a year to watch the kids play. And one day we were standing behind the batting cage, and Hank's watching. And some of these kids were, doing their thing in the cage. And Hank just keeps shaking his head, trying to tell them what to do. And finally he says, give me a bat. And gets in the batting cage. He's, 50-something years old. And he flicks those wrists of his and hits a couple out of the ballpark. He says, do it like that.
Right. Joe Medwick, Joe Ducky Medwick, the last guy to hit the Triple Crown in the National League, I believe it was 37. He was our minor league hitting instructor in St. Louis, and we were in Double-A in Little Rock, and we were struggling as a team offensively, and he came down on a special visit for a week, and he had no patience. He was a tough guy. I love Joe.
Oh, boy. Ahead of Turner, and down to second goes Bird, and nice job of pulling the ejector switch by Justin Turner.
Well, this is called down. Get out of the way. So to make a long story short, Joe is chewing us out about how we don't know how to hit situationally and all this. He goes, gets in the batter's box with a bat. And he goes, now this is how you hit the ball to left field. He's 70+ years old. Throwing BP from the mound. Tom Burgess was the coach. He hit 2 line drives to left field. He goes, now hit the ball to center field. He hit 2 balls up the middle. He goes, now you want to pull the ball, do this. 6 pitches to all fields. And he threw the bat down and he said basically the same thing. Do it like that.
See, it goes back to the old saying, those who can't do teach, but those who can do sometimes can't teach. Sometimes it's just too easy. Turner lays off the slider, and it's 2-1. It's going to be an interesting month for Lucas Duda to try and figure out where his comfort zone is, keep the pressure off himself, because you're right, that's a big piece of it, because we know that Lucas can be challenged sometimes in terms of keeping his confidence high, but really with the melange of differing skill sets that you have amongst the Mets outfielders, he's that guy. Other than Ike Davis and David Wright, he's the guy on this team who you think can hit you 25, 30 home runs if things go well.
And listening to Sandy Alderson over the last couple of years, and there's a routine grounder to Figgins at third, and Terry Collins over the last 2 years. What seems to be the thing that they focus on, but the team is deficient on, is the lack of power. Well, we also have, the Mets also have is a very big home ballpark. It's not conducive to power hitting, particularly to right field with that
Modell.
Well,
it's not what it used to be, though.
Right.
Clearly, it's become a little more fair.
Right. But still a big park. I still feel that Citi Field's a big park.
But I think what Sandy would say to counter that is, because it's not a great home hitters park, the home run is even more important. That the guy who can hit the 25 home runs, regardless of what ballpark you're in, that he becomes of greater importance because there are no cheap home runs at Citi Field.
And then I would counter, and I know it was an AstroTurf field, Whitey Herzog coming to the Cardinals, my team, and realizing that St. Louis, Old Busch Stadium, was the second biggest park in the National League next to the Astrodome. And he molded a team around speed and defense and good pitching. So I guess there's 2 ways to look at it.
Well, think about the Giants. They've won the World Series 2 of the last 3 years. They play in as good a pitcher's ballpark as there is, and they've built their ball club around pitching and one great player in Buster Posey and a bunch of guys named Joe to fill out the team.
It's pretty amazing. They got some pretty good complementary players.
But think about what they used when they won in 2010 and how many of those guys were still around in 2012. Really, other than Posey, the whole team on the field changed.
Correct. And that year in 10, they had a lot of guys. And this happens, had great second halves that had career.
Renteria, Uribe, Cody Ross.
Absolutely. And that's something you cannot predict. And it all fell into place for him.
Andrew Brown, the batter, and he swings and misses 1-2. Brown, who played for Colorado briefly last year, had 112 at bats, at 5 home runs there. He's 28 years old. He had a cup of coffee with the Cardinals before getting some time with Colorado last year. But he is in that mix, a right-handed bat. Looking for a spot in the Mets outfield.
I remember Sanabria being a little more of a changeup pitcher. He's throwing a lot more breaking ball today than I've seen in the past.
Well, there's opportunity for guys like Sanabria and the Marlins rotation. They've really only got one established starting pitcher in Ricky Nolasco. Then just about everything else is up for grabs.
Every time I see Alex Sanabria, it makes me think of that wonderful road trip we had to San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next inning. An error and one left. 1-0 Marlins after 2. As Groucho Marx might have said, why a duck?
Horse feathers.
All by himself. Well, you know, we've mentioned a couple of times that by Florida standards, it's a little chilly today, 59 degrees at game time. So, you know how they say it's hot under TV lights? Well, today the TV lights are serving as heat lamps.
Yes, they are. We're not under interrogation here.
No, we let the information flow without a lot of hard questioning.
I believe Kurt Gowdy Jr. is up north, so we're not under interrogation. He's not here.
Not today. Of course, our good friends at Picks are bringing us the game today.
Yes, they are.
Steve Olbaum and back in New York. Sean Figgins will lead off for the Marlins in the third with Miami up 1-0. Saw the numbers for Figgins last year. Not pretty in 166 at-bats with Seattle. And he bluffs a bunt, takes a strike from Matt Harvey. Harvey struck out 3 over the first 2 innings. Went 2 in his first start, trying to go 3 innings today. At 31 pitches through the first 2. Gave up a leadoff home run to Christian Yelich, but has settled in nicely since then. Harvey gave up 5 home runs in 59 innings in his 10 starts last year. He'll turn 24 years of age before opening day. Now, who's going to pitch opening day has become an open question for the Mets. The original plan was to have Johan Santana pitch opening day, but Santana has gotten off to a slow start, trying to regain arm strength. Won't be in a game for another week or so, and so it's an open question as to whether he'll be ready to pitch opening day.
Nope.
Terry Collins opined yesterday that John Neese would probably get the call if Johan was not ready.
That is April 1st, Monday, the opening day at Citi Field against, believe it or not, the San Diego Padres. Once again, we've opened up before against the Padres.
First game in the new ballpark.
That's right. And who hit the home run the first?
Jody Garrett.
That's right.
Led off the first ever regular season game at Citi Field with a home run. We saw Colin McHugh up in the bullpen. What I was going to say about opening day starters, it's not going to be Matt Harvey this year, but in the very near future, there's every chance Matt Harvey will start some opening day games. Comes in tight to Figgins, and it's 3-2. Don't know when Zach Wheeler is going to throw again. Wheeler, of course, got scratched from his start the other day with a slight oblique pull. More tightness than anything else as Joe Espada, the third base coach, has to dance out of the way. There's Pedro Feliciano. You can't see it, but he's wearing a heart monitor. He's got a rare genetic condition that they say he should be just fine pitching with. And there's a nice fastball to get Sean Figgins. And Harvey has his 4th strikeout. That's that explosion on the fastball we've seen from Matt.
That's up and in, and go sit down.
Well, Matt Harvey and Zach Wheeler inevitably get compared with a guy like Steven Strasburg, and you see what Matt did in his first 10 starts last year compared to what Strasburg did when he first came up in 2010, and numbers are fairly similar. Strasburg a few more strikeouts.
Anytime you're in double digits, you average double digits every 9. You're doing pretty good. I mean, that's world-breaking news right there. But Matt, I'll never forget that first start in Arizona, how impressive that was.
11 strikeouts in his first outing. And he was disappointed because he had to come out after 5 1/3. And I think that's one thing that serves Matt Harvey extremely well. At no point since the time he came up, and there's Harvey throwing a 2-0 changeup, at no point since he came up has he been satisfied with what he's accomplished. He's always looking for more from himself. As he walks Yelich on 4 pitches after Yelich took him deep first time up. First walk given up by Harvey. And you spend some time around Matt, Keith, and you just get the impression he's got the mindset of an ace. Now, whether he eventually becomes that big-time #1 starter, I know every Met fan is hoping that happens, but he's got the mentality for it.
He's got the mentality to be just a star pitcher, and I see him in the clubhouse. I don't want to say serious is the right word. It certainly would be one of the adjectives, but focus would be a better word probably. And I'm not around him all the time. We can't spend every waking moment down there in the clubhouse on the field with him. I'm sure he laughs and jokes, but he's fit as a fiddle, and I would not even consider charging the mound on him. And he's a big kid.
He's very solid. You look at Zach Wheeler, he's a little bit more of a string bean, but Harvey he's more filled out. He's got those wide shoulders and a really blocky body. He was a catcher in addition to pitching when he was growing up.
Plus he's around 6'4". It's getting to be the norm now, all the generations as they pass.
And look at that number. Look at that number right there. That is so impressive. The ability to put hitters away with 2 strikes, and he showed that right from the beginning of his career last year. They hit under 100 against him.
That's the way it should be. And you see a lot of pitchers today miss the boat as a hitter. Even a guy with marginal stuff. If he's 0-2 on me or any hitter, that hitter's at a disadvantage. And you see too many guys that don't have the eye of the tiger and go out after 0-2 and go get the hitter. Harvey does.
1-2 on Marisnick, who grounded to short his first time up. And it's hit through the hole and base hit. Yelich pulls in at second base. So a 1-out walk and a following hit by Marisnick.
Well, we'll take a look at the location here. Looks like a slider that hung. That might have been a changeup. I'm not sure. That might have been a slider, but too much of the plate.
So 1 out, runners at first and second, and here's Brantley, who struck out his first time up. Well, Brantley, just 23 years old, very much an offense first catcher. But he's going to be the #1 guy behind the plate for the Marlins, and the guy they expected to be the second string catcher, the veteran Jeff Mathis, is out for at least 6 weeks. He broke his collarbone early in camp, and they are searching for a guy to be Brantley's backup. They don't really have another major league ready guy in camp, so they have to go out and find one.
Well, they certainly have enough players in camp.
Yeah, but how many of them want to strap on the catcher's equipment?
The Marlins have 73 players in camp. And that means a 40-man roster, 33 non-roster invitees. My goodness.
And you know who one of those non-roster invitees who's actually throwing the game back in Jupiter in an inter-squad game today? John Maine.
Oh, really? Okay, that's right.
Is a hopeful for a spot in that Miami rotation this year. Talked about how wide open it might be. And Maine, who has not thrown a big league pitch since he walked off the mound in Washington 3 years ago with the Mets, has a shot. 2-0 now to Brantley.
Nice block by Recker there. Runners on first and second. Got in front of it nicely. Good fundies.
Anthony Recker, who hopes to be the backup catcher for the Mets at the start of the season. That might be a short-term role depending on Travis d'Arnaud's progression. Now Harvey behind 2-0. And Brantley takes a strike.
That's where I like to see him pitch, inside. Particularly to the left-handers. Throws hard. Let him, look at that, locked him up. Let him think on that.
Hitter's eyes closed, catcher's eyes closed.
You see this look on his expression? Just like, oops. You get the hitter inside, you get him worried, and you got him the rest of the day.
In foul ground, Lutz should have plenty of room. And that's the second out. So Brantley retired on the foul pop-up. And Harvey is looking to get through 3. Is not going to get quite that far. At 49 pitches, they're going to cap him off and go to the bullpen right here. So Terry Collins gets 2 2/3 out of his young ace. Second day at the office this spring for Harvey. He'll leave with 2 out and 2 on. Colin McHugh will come on to replace him here in the top of the third with the Marlins up 1-0. We'll be back to Port St. Lucie in a moment. Wings over Port St. Lucie.
That's a great Heron.
He looks like he has work on his mind. Matt Harvey's work done for the day. 50 pitches over 2 2/3.
You're too big for that bird. So don't worry, he's not after you.
Oh, I was not concerned about that. I was thinking if it were fish.
Well, there's Collins' numbers from last year. You see, he had eight games, 4 starts. His first start, if you recall, against Colorado was brilliant. Went 7 innings, 2 hits.
7 scoreless and struck out 9 in that game. It was an extraordinary beginning to a career.
Big curveball, not a hard thrower. His next time out against Atlanta, he got rocked. It kind of went downhill for him. He's a pitcher that has to be precise with all of his pitches. He's not overpowering. Has to hit the corners and keep the ball down.
Comes in to face Matt Downs with 2 out and 2 on. And Downs hits one off the end of the bat to center. And Cowgill eases in. And that retires the side. So the Marlins strand 2. Mets will come up in the bottom of the 3rd. 1-0 Miami. Subscribe to MLB.TV Premium today and watch over 150 select spring training games live. Plus, every regular season game live or on demand on over 250 mobile and connected devices. Visit Mets.com for details. Mitch Talbot comes on to pitch for the Marlins here in the 3rd.
Well, with the Indians, as you see right there, in 11, not in the big leagues last year. It's a wide open camp for the Marlins.
Talbot, originally drafted by the Astros, has pitched in the big leagues with Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Anthony Recker leads off for the Mets in the home 3rd. Recker doing the catching today. The Mets 8 and 9 hitters in this afternoon's game. Anthony Recker and Zach Lutz were teammates in college at Division III Alvernia College in Pennsylvania. And here they are hitting back-to-back in the order this afternoon for the Mets. Now, in 2005, for the Alvernia Crusaders, Anthony Recker hit .471, and Zach Lutz hit .422. Well, it was like Ruth and Gehrig, Mantle and Maris.
Murderer's Row.
You bet. And now here they are, united again in Mets camp. Recker played some with the A's and the Cubs last year, just 49 big league at bats. He's 29 years old, trying to stick full time in the big leagues for the first time. He's a big kid. Presents a formidable target behind the plate. Alex Sanabia pitched 2 hitless innings for the Marlins. And there's a curveball from Talbot, missing 2-1. Talbot making his second appearance of the spring. He's 29 years old now. And Recker bounces one down to Figgins, who can't handle the short hop cleanly, and Recker's aboard. Tough day at the office already for Figgins at third base.
Well, that's a throwing error back in the second inning. And there, just on the exchange. I always say use two hands, you kids out there. See, one-handed all-star, and a lot of things can go wrong.
So Figgins with his second error of the day, and the Mets have a leadoff base runner. And now Lutz getting a chance to play third base with David Wright having joined the U.S. team for the World Baseball Classic. And Lutz grounds one down to Figgins, handles this one cleanly, gets the out at second. And Lutz able to beat the relay from Downs.
So it's always very funny, isn't it? I always felt. Here's the toughest play he's had in the whole day, Figgins, and he makes it look easy. In between, tough hop.
What looked like it rolled around in his glove for a moment, too. Imagine the panic. You already made two errors.
Yep.
And you're in danger of a third.
Well, if you're Stratomatic 4, you're really worried.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Cohen Cowgill, who hit one a long way to center field his first time up, and Jake Marisnick went back and made a tough play look easy to retire him.
I told you earlier, Gary, I'm playing the 1963 season. The Dodgers won. Koufax had his greatest year at Stratomatic, and there is a 5 in the National League defensively. And he played for the Dodgers.
Really?
Yes, a 5 in right field. You know him very well.
Really? Off the top of my head,
Big Hondo.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, Frank Howard was not known for his defensive wizardry. He was a better first baseman than he was an outfielder.
Yes, and Frank, which is interesting, is that why would you play a 5 out in right field? Well, they also rate arms in the Stratomatic. And Frank's arm was a -2. Frank had a good arm. I just want to stay on Frank's good side.
Everybody wants to stay on Frank's good side. Jay Horwitz tweeted today about Frank Howard. Said he once saw Frank eat 2 extra large pizzas at one sitting.
I used to watch him lift weights in the sauna after a game. I won't tell you what attire he was
scantily
in.
clad.
Oh, God.
Cowgill taps one over the mound, and Downs gets the force at second and turns the double play. 4-4-3 to end the inning. That'll save Keith from a more complete description of Hondo's attire. Works harder in spring training than the catchers.
Not only do they have to catch all the pitchers, they work on the speed drills, the balls in the dirt drills, and every other drill that's going to get you tired and get you a good night's sleep.
Well, you wonder why Gary Carter had the bad knees. There's a lot of squatting going on. And then you got a 162 game schedule, around 28 spring training games over the years. That'll wear you down. We know that kid. I saw him ice up those knees before every game. It was for Gary, it was just to get the uniform on. There was around an hour and a half every day in the trainer's room.
And then after the game, he was always the last guy out of the clubhouse.
Yep.
Joe Mahoney, the first baseman, leads off against Colin McHugh in the 4th. Mahoney struck out against Matt Harvey his first time up. Harvey went 2 2/3, allowed a run on 3 hits. The run coming on a leadoff home run by Christian Yelich, the only run of this game. Harvey walked 1 and struck out 4 in those 2 2/3. So all in all, a good outing for Matt in his second appearance of the spring. The door is open for Colin McHugh if Santana is unable to start the season, and who knows at this point. And you can probably say the same about Sean Markham, who is taking a slow approach in the early portion of the spring as well. So for guys like Colin McHugh and Jeremy Hefner and Henry Mejia, opportunity might be there a little earlier than expected. Nobody goes through a full season these days with 5 starting pitchers. You need to have at least 2 or 3 in reserve because stuff happens over the course of the season. Driving there to deep right field off the bat of Mahoney, and that's going to leave. Second home run of the day for the Marlins. So Mahoney, who was acquired on waivers from Baltimore after a brief big league appearance last year with the Orioles, smacks a home run to make it 2-0 Miami.
Well, both homers from the Marlins left-hand hitters. First, the leadoff home run from Yelich. And now this one here, all low ball hitters, those lefties, aren't they low ball hitters? And with the wind blowing out to right, you can forget it. Good effort out there.
It's pretty good attendance on the berm for a cool, cloudy day. Here's Austin Kearns, who's DHing today. And he fouls back the fastball.
Well, Kearns has sure hung around for a long time, hasn't he?
Drafted in the first round by the Reds in 1998. He's now 32 years old.
Doesn't like the ball in.
So McHugh throws it away, and Kearns lines it away into right field. And he'll stop at first as Brown gets it in. So back-to-back hits for the Marlins to start the 4th. You weren't quick enough with your scouting report.
Well, no one listens to me anyway.
Well, that's not true. I know there are many thousands right now hanging on your every word.
I've been making myself a little more accessible in the clubhouse, and I've been asked a lot about hitting by a lot more players this year. That's what happens when you have a young team. A lot of guys have approached me, and more than a few, and wanted to know what I did as a hitter, what my philosophy was. And the first thing I always tell them is I just did an interview with Joe Morgan, who was 2-time MVP. Joe has a radio show, and I said I looked fastball. That's the first thing I tell him. I always looked fastball and adjusted, and a lot of them are shocked by it. And when I said it on the interview with Joe, Joe interjected and said I was the same way. I always looked fastball.
So how do you think a modern player, the Hansel Robles up in the bullpen, how do you think a modern player thinks? Is it that he is looking for a particular pitch and doesn't adjust, or is that he's looking breaking ball and try to adjust to a fastball?
Well, I'll tell you what. Ralph Connor's been in the booth, Hall of Famer. Ralph said he looked breaking ball, and that's fine. I do know that not everybody's a 300 hitter. I really believe that the reason why there's 240 hitters, 260 hitters, 220 hitters is that they can't look fastball and adjust, so they have to guess. So that it probably to me explains a lot. But I was just instructed by my dad how to. He always said, no, don't look for a pitch. If a pitcher is throwing a lot of breaking balls, just be in anticipation of the breaking ball. And that's different than looking for. At least it makes sense to me. That's how I was trained.
Double play ball right at Turner. And Tejada completes it. 4-6-3 double play. 2 out and nobody out. So what you're saying is that you are prepared to adjust to a breaking ball as opposed to looking for a breaking ball.
I'm prepared for the breaking ball, but still looking fastball so I can hit both pitches. I mean, when you face Steve Carlton, I mean, he was the only pitcher that I ever faced, Hall of Famer, that I could say he threw 95% sliders. But he was a power pitching breaking ball pitcher. That is, to me, right there is a I can't think of the word. It just doesn't make sense.
If Green finds the gap in left center, Galgo chases it down, and Green pulls into second base with a 2-out double.
Would a paradox be the right word?
A conundrum?
Well, I don't know about conundrum. It just doesn't. This is like, it doesn't make sense. How do you say someone's a power pitcher when he throws 95% breaking ball? You would think you would say, if someone told you that and didn't say it was Steve Carlton, you would say, well, he's a junk baller. But Carlton wasn't.
But his breaking ball was a hard breaking ball.
Yes.
So that's different from a guy who's throwing lollipop curves.
Right. So obviously, when I faced Carlton, it had to. I mean, I got 4 at-bats against Carlton. You know, I might have 4. Let's just say I averaged 4 at-bats. So that's 16 pitches. Let's say I got 10 to 16 pitches off. I guarantee you, if it was 16, 13 were breaking ball.
Right, but he's not going to pitch the same way to a right-hand hitter, is he?
Well, he did that too. He pounded. He threw more fastballs to right-handers.
That back foot slider to the right hand.
The fastball he threw outside corner. He had that B line right there to keep him honest. So, of course, you're going to go up there and have the curveball in your mind, the slider. So, let's just say when you look for a breaking ball, you can't hit a fastball because it comes in too quick. Now there's some hitters that will tell you otherwise.
And McHugh picks off the line drive to end the inning. So Sean Figgins is retired. The Marlins add a run on the home run by Mahoney and lead it 2-0 in the 4th. Mets at Port St. Lucie. 26th year the Mets have been here in Port St. Lucie. Longer, or as long, as they spent training in St. Petersburg.
Oh, I remember when he came over here. Nelson Doubleday was one of the owners, obviously, and he had Nelson lives on this side over on Jupiter Island. I believe Fred has just bought on Jupiter Island. And we called it Port St. Lonesome. There was nothing here.
It really wasn't. I got here the second year, and it was bereft of infrastructure.
There was just nowhere to go. So the best thing to do was stay over on the beach, rent a condo.
Hutchinson Island down there.
Yeah, and it was a good 40-minute drive with the traffic to the ballpark every day. But that was okay. And there was a Shuckers, which is a grill over there that had darts and a pool table, and we'd all congregate there for a couple brewskis and a couple of darts.
A low-key gathering.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Chris Hatcher up in the Miami bullpen. Ruben Tejada pops one up in foul ground. Should be room for Mahoney. And right near the photo box, he's got it. On the way. Well, this ballpark has gone through a number of different names. It was originally Thomas J. White Stadium in honor of the developer of this area. It was Tradition Field and Digital Domain Park, and now back to Tradition Field this year.
Get the first pitch, first hit, and first home run. John Gibbons, manager now of Toronto this year.
Second time around.
Yep. Steve Sachs, of course, the Dodger.
So 26 years in St. Pete, and now this is the 26th year in Port St. Lucie.
And when we came over here, it was a full house, standing room only, every game.
Of course, in those days, there was no Major League Baseball in Florida. It's before the Marlins and before the Rays, so the only chance that the folks in Florida had to see Major Leaguers was during spring training.
Right. And you had all kinds of teams up and down the East Coast of Florida. Now you don't have that. You only have 3.
Well, when the Mets first came here, you had the Orioles in Miami. You had the Yankees in Fort Lauderdale.
Texas and Pompano.
You had the Braves and Expos in West Palm Beach. And you had the Dodgers, of course, in Vero Beach. All very close by.
Twins were in Orlando in Central Park.
Davis flies out for the second out.
I loved the West Coast. I loved the Gulf side. What did you prefer, Gary? Were you never went over there?
I wasn't in St. Petersburg with you guys, so I didn't really have much of a point of comparison. Every spring training I've spent has been here. When I was in the minor leagues, doing AAA with the Red Sox, I was in Winter Haven for a couple of years. And let me tell you, this is a lot nicer than Winter Haven.
Winter Haven was one of the places I just hated to go. And Lakeland and Orlando. It was big trips from St. Pete.
Central Florida towns.
It was an hour to Lakeland. It was 45 minutes from St. Pete to Tampa. It was 45 minutes to Dunedin, where Toronto was. I hated Dunedin. It was an old park and a terrible infield. Bradenton was an hour. Sarasota was that was an hour 45.
And the best thing sometimes about St. Lucie is the wildlife. You got the alligators. A lot of guys go fishing out beyond the outfield fence. Marlon Byrd down on the breaking ball by Mitch Talbot. Mets still looking for their first hit. They've been held without one through the first 4 here at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie. 2-0 Marlins. as we go to the 5th inning. Zach Lutz moves from third base to first base. Omar Quintanilla takes over at shortstop, and Brandon Hicks is in to play third. And a very intriguing young right-hander, Hansel Robles, takes over the pitching for New York. Look at those eye-popping numbers from Brooklyn last year.
That's A-ball, so he's a youngster on the rise, and this is what the Mets are touting. It's young pitching that is a lot of it not ready, not major league ready, but on the rise.
What's very interesting about Robles and several of the Mets' younger Dominican prospect pitchers, normally players from the Dominican sign when they're 16 years old, but you look at Montero, who we've seen already this spring, Rafael Montero, Luis Mateo, and Robles, they all signed older than 16. Robles signed at 18. I think Mateo signed at 20. So their development has been a little quicker than it sometimes is with those younger players because they signed at a more advanced age. Here's Robles, who will pitch in Double-A this year, and he's not all that far away. Christian Yelich leads off. Yelich has already had himself a nice day with a home run and a walk. It's a ball and a strike to Yelich. Robles last year, we showed those numbers probably most impressively. 73 innings, 47 hits, and 10 walks. So they just didn't get on base against him in the New York Penn League last year. Colin McHugh worked an inning and a third in relief. Allowed a run on 3 hits. After Matt Harvey went the first 2 2/3. Two to Yelich, who was named the Marlins minor league player of the year last year and the year before. Read some of the scouting reports on Yelich. They talk about him as a potential future batting champion. That's how highly he's regarded in scouting circles. 3-2 now. Just 21 years old. He was drafted out of high school in California in 2010, first rounder for the Marlins. And when you're in the position that Miami is in, having basically discarded all of your veteran players, you need the kind of hope that Yelich presents as he gets on for the 3rd straight time today. A home run, now 2 walks. You can understand the reaction that Giancarlo Stanton had when he learned about the trade that sent virtually all the remaining veteran talent that the Marlins had to Toronto in the offseason. He reacted rather angrily, and you can get that because Stanton at this point, Stanton's over with David Wright in Phoenix, training for the U.S. team for the World Baseball Classic. He is going to be very alone in the middle of that Miami batting order this summer. Here's Marisnick, who's 1 for 2, single to left his last time, and he takes a strike from Robles. Well, Jeffrey Loria, the owner of the Marlins, laid low for most of the offseason and then unleashed a public relations blitz in the last few days. And among other things, he said, look, we tried spending money. We lost 93 games. We're going to try it a different way.
Well, you used the wrong team, the 27 Yankees. You should have just used the 31 Athletics.
That's right. Connie Mack broke up. Well, and now everybody wants to speculate as to whether they're going to hang on to Stanton. I mean, he is easily the premier young power hitter in the game. 37 home runs last year, and he missed nearly a quarter of the season because of injury. And he's just 23 years old. 1-2 to Marisnick. I mean, the sky's the limit for Stanton. So now the question is, are they going to build around him, or are they going to trade him for prospects as well? They have him under control for, I think it's 3 more years, so there seems to be no rush. But if you take Loria at his word, this was not about a salary dump. You know, he says, you know, we went from $100 million to $20 million in payroll, but it's not as though we're not going to spend the money. But the reaction by Marlins fans has been almost uniformly negative. And you can understand that from a couple of different standpoints. if you think about the history of the Marlins, and they've only been around 20 years, there's a breaking ball. Marisnik down looking. So Robles has the first out of the inning. Marlins came to be in 1993 as an expansion team. They won a World Series in 1997 when Wayne Huizenga owned the team. They brought in a lot of veteran talent, and then immediately after winning the World Series, dumped it all. Fire sale, completely dismantled, and they hit rock bottom in 1998. Then after they won the World Series again in 2003, again they dismantled the following year. So they've been through this before, having success and then dismantling. The difference this time is they didn't really have success, as Brantley drives one into right field for a base hit. Yelich will go first to third as Brown gets it in. So the Marlins have runners at the corners with one out. So that's one piece, the feeling among the Marlins faithful that they've been through this before. But the other piece is that the Marlins received an enormous amount of public money to build their new stadium. And I think that the fans feel as though at that point it was incumbent upon the Marlins to spend the money to try and have a winning team, which in their favor they did. But now a year later they've dismantled.
They feel a betrayal.
Now, from a baseball sense, it could be that the Marlins have done the right thing here if they got back the prospects that they think that they have. I mean, Marisnik, we've seen today, came in that Toronto deal. Henderson Alvarez, who we saw last summer pitching for the Blue Jays, very impressive young pitcher. The shortstop, Danny Echeverria, who's not here today, who a lot of scouts feel is going to be a frontline shortstop. So they got some players back in that deal. The question is how long it's going to take to rebuild a winning team.
Well, one thing about baseball, there's no guarantees on draft picks, young players making it in the big league level. It's always the loose cannon. You just don't know.
And I think also when you look at it from a Marlin fan perspective, I don't think that they mourned the trade of Mark Burley or Gabby Sanchez or Omar Infante. But the guy that was sold to them as the future of the franchise when he signed the big deal last winter was Jose Reyes. And I think a lot of fans reacted very negatively to the fact that Reyes was traded.
We have a big Latin Cuban community down there, and of course Jose was a favorite down there. Didn't have a great year last year. Didn't have a bad year, no, by any stretch of the imagination, but he's off to Toronto, and it'd be fun to watch and see how the season transpires.
I'm interested to see how he responds to playing on AstroTurf, because it could be a good thing for Jose, you know, to use his speed as the ball in the dirt will allow Brantley to go to second. But, you know, you obviously have concern about his legs playing 81 games on artificial turf.
Well, it should be something very positive playing on turf for Jose. Hit the ball on the ground, line drives, keep the ball out of the air.
But in truth, what Loria described with the Marlins last year as a perfect storm was really that. You know, you brought in a lot of high-priced talent, but you brought in a pretty combustible mix with Ozzie Guillen and Reyes and Heath Bell and folks like that. Zambrano. And then, of course, Ozzie, before they even started the season, had his much debated comments about Fidel Castro, which only served to put more of a spotlight when things didn't go well early, and it kind of spiraled downhill from there, and they wound up losing 93 games.
Well, you kind of tend to talk about the Latin player, and you kind of put them into one big lump sum, and really it's not. I mean,
Downs goes down on strikes. Nice job by Robles for the second out.
You've got Central American countries, you've got South American countries, completely different. And Cuba, of course, has a big history with Castro, and there's a lot of people still alive that escaped and were very upset. So you just can't put, okay, you cannot say the Latin player as one in generalization. They're all completely different from different countries, different continents.
Here's Joe Mahoney, who homered his last time up against Colin McHugh, 2nd and 3rd and 2 out. And I guess the bottom line on all of this is, if you make an investment and you have an unsuccessful season, does it make more sense to tinker at the edges, which the Marlins could have done, or does it make more sense to blow it up and start from scratch, which is what they have done? And I don't know the answer to that. Maybe what they've done is exactly the right thing.
Mahoney cranks another one to deep right field. Brown goes back for a look, and this ball's out of here. Mahoney with his 2nd home run of the day, a 3-run shot. The Marlins have now hit 3 home runs, all to the berm in right field, and they have a 5-0 lead. So Mahoney, who hit 10 home runs in the minor leagues last year in 132 games at Norfolk in the Orioles organization, has 2 home runs today.
Well, both hits by the Marlins. There you go. Left-hander downstairs. This one's down and in. Slider. And a nice hustle by that kid. Did you get it? Oh, he got hurt. No, he's fine.
But he bounced right back. I mean, he didn't cringe.
See, he went after that ball on his heels, I bet you. That's what was his mistake.
But he's on a slope. How do you stay on your toes when you're on a down slope?
I'm just glad I didn't hit him in the face. Oh,
I think it just snuck up on him a little fast, but I like the way he went right after the ball.
He's got a good jump on it.
So 5-0 Miami. None the worse for wear. I didn't see who got the ball. I don't think he did. But he'll be back for more.
So Robles having trouble with the lefties. Nice play.
Turner makes the backhand pick and throws out Kearns to end the inning. Mahoney's 2nd home run of the day makes it 5-0 Miami halfway through.
So there's
We go to the home 5th inning in Port St. Lucie. Miami now with a 5-0 lead. Lucas Duda will lead off for New York, and joining us from the Mets dugout is Marlon Byrd, who served as the DH today. Marlon, it's Gary and Keith up in the booth. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm very interested in how you're enjoying this camp. This is a kind of a different experience for you, trying to resurrect your career and win a job with a new ball club. How have you found the experience so far?
Oh, it's different. Sometimes you go in, you have a little stress trying to make a team. You want to try to do everything perfect, but I think I was blessed to go down to Mexico and come in kind of ready for camp. Ahead of everybody. I've seen him in live pitching and playing in the Caribbean Series. So you know, saw the best of the best down there with Dominican and Venezuela and Puerto Rico. So I was ready.
Now, you told me this was the first time in your career you'd ever played winter ball. I know a lot of guys go when they're younger, but as an older player going there for the first time, that had to be a pretty rewarding experience.
It was great. You know, we ended up winning the whole thing playing for Team Mexico. But I think going down there as an older guy is a little bit different because I had one focus, and that was baseball. So that's all. I went down there, worked on that, and took everything I could from the game down there, learned, and tried to bring it back to the States.
Well, Marlon, you broke in with the Phillies back, what, in 2002? You're 35 years old. How's your health this spring?
Good. You know, feeling healthy. Again, you know, game ready already. Again, a little bit ahead of the curve where I would usually be. But, yeah, the legs feeling good, arms feeling good, and mind's good.
And you're swinging the bat good, too. I know you go the other way so naturally. You like that ball down, and you hit that ball to right center field, and you've been doing that all spring. And you just said you feel like you're ahead because of winter ball, but you got to feel good about it. You know, you've got to impress to make this ball club, and you've got a chance to be out there and get a lot of playing time.
Definitely. The big thing signing with this team is, nice swing.
Duda driving one to left center, and that'll make it one hop to the wall. So Duda with the leadoff double. Marlon, tell me a little bit about last year, because I know it had to be so disappointing for you with the Cubs, with the Red Sox, with the suspension. How do you handle that as a person, and how do you then pick yourself up to try and rebound from it?
Taking a stride, and you have to embrace it, you know, the positives and negatives in your game. You know, it wasn't pretty over there with Chicago, and they put me in a good spot with Boston. You know, I did what I could over there. You know, I think I hit 080 with Chicago. I did okay, hit about 270 with Boston. Then that suspension hit, and, you know, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with my game. My suspension was up August 20th, and I thought I'd latch on with the team, try to help a team get back to get to the playoffs, but nobody picked me up. So, but at the same time, I looked at it as kind of a blessing in disguise, because I got to go down to Mexico, work on my mechanics, a new leg kick, and try to bring it for 2013.
It seems as though Terry is trying to give you a lot of playing time early in camp, trying to get a feel for where you are and what you can offer here. How do you see yourself fitting in here?
Oh, just a veteran that can play all three outfield positions. There are some great young players here that are in the outfield. You know, they brought in Cal Gill, which is also a right-handed hitting outfielder, with myself. So I can play anywhere that they need me to play.
And I know that you heard what Terry said early in camp, that he was particularly interested in seeing what you could offer here, because after all, you're in a group with a lot of other young players who haven't really been battle tested at the major league level. Do you feel as though that gives you a leg up?
No, not at all. These guys, they might not be battle tested, but at the same time, there's a lot of talent out here. So I'm watching these young guys. They know how to work. They come in, they get all the work in, all the lifting in, the extra work that they need. They make sure they're in the cage. So, and I see them getting ready for the season, same thing that I would do. It seems like I started doing that at an older age. And these guys, again, using that same term, ahead of the curve as far as being a young guy. So, you know, it's one of those things where I'm just hoping to fit in and help these guys get better.
You now, Marlon, are a veteran, and there's always a transition when you're young, and you got veterans you looked up to. Now you're one of them. How's that been for you? Are you embracing that? Are you enjoying that?
Definitely. I think I'm the oldest position player. I think this is the first time I've been in this position. But I'll always remember coming up in 2002, Doug Glanville, my mentor, taking me under his wing, playing with guys, Bobby Abreu, Todd Pratt, Jose Mesa, teaching me the long toss program. So everything that I've learned, the big thing for me, I think, being a veteran, is passing the torch.
And what's the most important thing you can do for these younger players?
Help. Any questions they have. I've been through it all. I've been outrighted, been placed on waivers, been designated, been traded. As a prospect, went to suspect, been suspended. So, any questions that they have, I can answer.
Well, Marlon, best of luck to you. It's been fun to watch so far this spring. Good luck as you move along here.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Marlon Byrd joining us from the Mets dugout. Meanwhile, Andrew Brown, one of the guys Marlon is competing with as a right-handed bat in that outfield, driving in the first Met run of the day with a base hit up the middle. And now Anthony Recker at the plate and takes a strike from Chris Hatcher, the former catcher. Hatcher, the catcher, on the mound for the Marlins. Figures to be a piece of that Miami bullpen this year. They've got Steve Cishek as their closer now. Cishek, who is playing for the U.S. team in the World Baseball Classic, took over that role last year when Heath Bell faltered. And as Brown takes off with the ball in the dirt, and he makes it on the wild pitch. And the guy who figures to be the setup man in that Miami bullpen this year is John Roush, who the Mets declined to re-sign and went over and signed with the Marlins.
Well, Roush would be the guy you'd want to have there. That's for sure. That bullpen also has Ryan Webb. It's more of a middle guy, sinker baller. Dunn is the guy they acquired from Atlanta, the left-hander. Really, it's been disappointing with that team. He's a little bit too wild, hard thrower.
They brought up Dan Jennings, the other lefty, last year. We saw a little bit of him. He'll probably be on that staff.
They have got a lot of guy candidates with less than 20 innings pitched last year. You know, it's an inexperienced lot.
Well, it really goes up and down that Marlins roster in terms of inexperience. 2-2 to Recker with a runner in scoring position and 1 out. And he pops one a mile high. The wind takes it to the middle of the infield. Who's going to call? Figgins does. And that's the second out. It's an interesting question you asked, though, about that transition as a player, that mindset. You know, you go from being a prospect to, as Marlon said, to being a suspect, and now all of a sudden you look up a few years later and you're the oldest guy in camp.
So, and it is, I mean, we all have our egos, and I think Marlon was interesting to listen to the people that were there when he came up. For me, it was obviously Lou Brock, Ted Sizemore, but particularly Lou Brock. And all of a sudden you're in that position. It felt great. And there's a day you wake up, or there's a not so much wake up, a day you come to camp. And for me, it was '84 spring training with all the young Mets. That okay, I'm a veteran now. I'm no longer someone working up through the ranks. I got the bars on my shoulder now, or the stripes.
Are you just waiting for the oak leaf cluster?
With diamonds and crossed swords.
The stars will be there before you know it. And Lutz takes one the other way. Brown being waved around third. The throw coming in from Coughlin, not in time. Zach Lutz with an RBI single. And the Mets have scored twice here in the fifth. It's now 5-2 Miami. Nice job by Lutz taking the ball the other way.
That ball was outside corner, knee high, went right with it. Nicely done. Not a bad pitch.
You know, Zach Lutz has been hurt for a good portion of his professional career. We saw him for 9 at-bats last year in the big leagues. But I was looking at his minor league numbers last year. He had a terrific season. Now, he only got in 78 games because, again, he broke a bone in his hand and missed a lot of time. But 386 on-base percentage, 488 slugging percentage. He's always been good for that 15 to 20 home runs a year. The problem for Lutz right now is his positions are first base and third base, where the Mets are best fortified. And I guess the question would be for Terry Collins whether he's interested in looking at Lutz in the outfield all this spring.
And if I was Lutz, I would be getting some fly balls.
As Cowgill takes inside. I mean, we were talking earlier about how much is on Duda's shoulders because he's really the only one of the outfield candidates who you think of as a home run hitter. But if Lutz were able to man a corner outfield spot, perhaps he would provide that as well. But again, the biggest challenge for Zach in his career has just been staying on the field. By the way, nice job by Duda driving the ball to left center, leading off this inning.
It's a lot of spring training left. I just had to chuckle a little bit, and it's when he went 0-for-4 in the second game up in against the Nationals. Up there, he struck out 4 times. And the papers the next day, Duda off to a terrible start. I mean, come on, it's only the second game. My goodness.
30 days until opening day.
Cut some slack here.
And Cowgill drives one into left field. So the Mets tearing up Chris Hatcher. That's 4 hits in the inning, and they've all been struck hard. So Cowgill has his first hit of the day. Gets him right to 500 for the spring, 8 for 16. And now Omar Quintanilla will come up for the first time. Quintanilla took over at shortstop for Ruben Tejada, who went 0 for 2.
Well, I've always liked Quintanilla. A little scrappy little player. He's not going to hit for power, but very serviceable middle infielder, backup guy.
Filled in at shortstop last summer when Tejada got hurt. He had 70 at bats with the Mets, and then they sent him to Baltimore, and he had some good moments with the Orioles as they put on their stretch drive and got to the postseason. He did not get to play in the postseason with Baltimore. The Mets got him back in the offseason, and I would say there's a pretty firm fight going on right now between Quintanilla and Brandon Hicks to see who's going to be the backup shortstop on this team. The thing we know about Omar, he can make the plays at short, but he can hit a little bit more than you think. Former first-round draft pick by Oakland out of the University of Texas. 2-1 to Quintanilla. I think that's the one place Quintanilla has a leg up on Hicks. It's that Hicks has really never hit at the big league level. Although they rave about his arm at short, he's been a little erratic defensively so far.
He's made some errors and throwing error and a couple boots. So when you're looking to be a backup infielder, you can't be making errors out there in the field.
2-2. I read somewhere the other day, and I don't know how true this is, that the reason that the Mets went out and re-signed Quintanilla was because there was a point during the offseason when the Mets were in the bidding for Justin Upton before he was traded to the Braves, and that the Mets, if they had made the trade for Upton, probably would have had to give up Ruben Tejada in that deal. And so as insurance, just in case that were to transpire, they went out and signed Quintanilla for protection at shortstop.
Well, they weren't going to give Upton away, were they?
Carlos Torres up in the bullpen for the Mets. No, and they didn't. And Justin Upton's numbers were down last year, mostly because of injury, but he's going to be poised to have a huge year with the Braves.
Interesting how BJ, his brother, will be coming over to the Braves with, you know, a lot of baggage he's bringing, and Luis Gonzalez, who was part of the player front office, former Arizona Diamondback, now in the front office with the Diamondbacks, had some critical things to say about Upton sulking last year. So it's kind of curious to see what's those two together. It's a completely new Brave look now, the whole outfield. It's very talented outfield. With Hayward and Wright, it's a pretty good outfield. They can hit.
Yeah, it's a chance to be maybe the best outfield in baseball.
Well, they've lost, the Braves lost Chipper, so they've had to find some, had to refortify that lineup. Of course, they got rid of Prado in that deal.
Right, Prado, Randall Delgado, one of their pitching prospects, went to the Diamondbacks as well. 3-2 and 2 out. Runners go, and Quintanilla hits one out to left. Yelich playing shallow, but right there waiting. And that retires the side. But the Mets put up a couple of runs. 5-2 Miami after 5.
nobody expected anything of. And the most recent were the Oakland A's. They took a all-rookie pitching staff by midseason and ended up winning the division. It can be done. Now, along that way, a lot of things have to go right. You got to get big years out of guys you don't expect. They did. Huge years. They got their pitching staff stayed healthy. A lot of things have to happen. But it can happen. And there's no reason why it can't happen here.
And in spring training, that's the mindset that you have to have. You can only win with what you've got. And Terry's taking that approach and hoping that things will align correctly for the Mets to be able to have themselves a successful year in 2013 as they wait for some of their pitching prospects to make themselves ready in coming seasons. Travis d'Arnaud, one of the Mets' prime prospects, now takes over behind the plate. Brian Bixler now playing second base. Juan Lagares takes over in center field. And Mike Baxter now in right. So you've got Bixler at second and Baxter in right. And if they converge on a pop-up, that's a tongue twister.
That's your job.
Well, back in the day, Pittsburgh Penguins had a line of Schock, Shack, and Schinkel. Eddie Shack, Ron Schock, and Ken Schinkel.
It's a tough one.
That's a play-by-play man's nightmare, because they interact frequently. Center field, and Lagares comes in to call and puts it away to retire Coghlan, one away. Well, over the last several years, certainly the A's last year not the only ones to put on a run after outperforming expectations. The Orioles last year were a prime example of that. The Rockies in 07 with that magnificent stretch run made it all the way to the World Series. So it can be done. I mean, it may be a year early for the Mets, but who knows? Nick Green takes wide for ball one. Green doubled to left center his last time up. One thing I know for sure, that any organization that has as many quality young arms in camp as the Mets have this spring has reason for long-term optimism. And it goes beyond Harvey and Wheeler. This one's driven to deep left field off Green's bat. Duda goes back near the wall and plays it off the fence. Green pulls in at second base with his second double of the game.
Well, the veteran Green here gets the ball down in the strike zone over the middle. Robles has been getting touched up.
Gave up a 3-run homer to Mahoney in the 5th inning. Now a 1-out double to Green here in the 6th. And Sean Figgins the batter. Because when you look at building an organization, it's all about young pitching, and it's all about volume. Because if you have 10 guys with great arms making their way up through your farm system, the odds are that 2 or 3 of them are going to get hurt. 2 or 3 of them aren't going to pan out. You might trade a couple of them, and at the end of the day, what you're hoping is that 2 or 3 of them will be the heart of your rotation for years to come, and that maybe use some of them, some others as trade chips to get you other pieces.
So if you look just past the pitching, the common denominator here is your farm system. That's where you're scouting, where you draft and you build from within the organization, from the ground up.
And that's really from day one when Sandy Alderson and Paul DePodesta and J.P. Ricciardi took over the baseball side of this organization. That's been their focus. It's been to replenish, to restock, to draft well, and, you know, in some cases to trade well. Whether it's trading a Carlos Beltran and turning him into Zach Wheeler, or trading an R.A. Dickey and turning him into Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard. They're trying to use every avenue, whether it's international signing, the draft, the trades, to build up the farm system and give themselves the pipeline and the trading chips that they'll need to try and have a sustained run of success in future years. It's not about being that one-year wonder like the Mets were in '06. It's about trying to win over the long term, which as a major market team should be your goal. Figgins is 0 for 2. He struck out and lined one back to the pitcher. And that's ball 4, and So Figgins is on with a walk. Second walk given up by Robles. And Dan Worth is going to pay a visit to the young right-hander.
Number 15, Travis Jara.
So Robles getting the counsel. Trying to shake off a difficult start to this inning with the top of the batting order coming up for Miami. Christian Yelich introduced himself quickly this afternoon with a home run onto the berm in right field off Matt Harvey. Since then, he's walked twice. The opening day center fielder for the Marlins is supposed to be Justin Ruggiano, but Ruggiano, who had such a breakout year last year for Miami, suffered a back injury, and he has not yet played this spring.
Well, that's another wild card for the Marlins, too. Ruggiani in 91 games last year at .313. 13 home runs in a big ballpark and 288 at-bats. That's impressive. Stole 14 bases.
Really an out-of-nowhere season for Ruggiano.
Not a spring chicken.
No, he's 31 years old.
Been around. So you got to wonder, you know, sometimes the cards are just come out in your favor. And sometimes you're dealt that low card in the deck. You know, that deuce of clubs is murder.
Doesn't mean he can't get another full house going this year. Yelich drives another one to deep right field. Baxter goes back for a look, and that one's off the fence. Green is in to score. Figgins will be held at third. So an RBI double for Yelich, who has had himself quite an afternoon. He's been on base 4 times, a couple of extra base hits, and his second RBI of the day, and it's 6-2.
Low ball hitter. Let's see where this ball. Bet it's down. Yes, sir. Right down the wheelhouse.
Now batting number 77, center fielder Jake Marizzi.
You can see right there, full extension of the arms means that ball's got too much plate and down into a left-hand hitter, and you're asking for trouble.
So now Jake Marisnick, who's 1 for 3 on the day, second and third and 1 out. Mets up the infield back because it's spring training. What do you think about that, Keith? When you're playing in spring training games, do you prefer a team look at the score, look at the situation, and play it accordingly?
You mean situational hitting and all that?
Well, situational fielding, situational hitting, whatever it might be. I mean, if this is a regular season game, you're in the 6th inning down 6-2, you're going to play the infield in. You can't afford to give up another run in the spot. So is that important to try and recreate those situations the way they'd be during the regular season, or is it not?
I think when you get down into the last 10 games of spring, you start maybe managing more like it's a real game and playing it more like a real game. You know, the players come in so much better shape today. I mean, I never swung a bat, and I would come to spring training and I would not be ready. You go to inter-squad games, not ready. I would take me around the first 10 games to get a rhythm up to the plate with spring training games. But the players today, they come ready. They're hitting, and you know, Pete Rose used to hit all year long, year round. So the players are doing that now, and that's a good thing. But I wouldn't bunt, and I'd let my player. Oh, don't get hurt over there, Mike.
We've already seen Mike Baxter lose a long stretch of time last year, making a miracle catch.
You know, unless you've got a player that is like a utility infielder or a backup outfielder that may get up and have to squeeze bunt, maybe you want to do that. But I would want my players to swing the bat, get into the rhythm of their swing. The players right now, even though they've had BP, live pitching is different than BP. So I want them to get their rhythm. You know, I wouldn't bunt, sacrifice bunt in, you know, 8th inning, a tie ball game, a leadoff single. early in sprint, I wouldn't sacrifice bunt.
But what about from a fielding standpoint? I know they do drills on the backfields incessantly with rundowns and such. In a situation like this, wouldn't you want to create an infield-in situation so you handle a rundown properly and look a runner back to third, that kind of thing? Or is that better handled on the backfield?
I just think at this stage of spring, what we are in our fifth game here. I'm not sure how
it's the eighth.
Eighth game.
But you know,
you got a whole month left.
Lose track.
You got a whole month left just to get another run in here.
Figgins tags and comes on in on the sacrifice fly by Marisnik to make it 72.
You could conceivably, Gary, go a whole spring training and not have a rundown situation.
That's what I mean.
You know.
I guess that was my question. Are you better off allowing yourself to create the situation so that those arise now rather than having them arise for the first time on opening day? Pitching change here. Carlos Torres will come in the game. Robles has reached his pitch count. He'll take his exit. 7-2 Miami in the sixth. We'll continue the philosophical discussion. We ask and we receive, because our crew is right on the money. We ask for rundown drills, and there they are. Rundown drills.
The trouble with rundown drills is that it's hot down here in Florida, and you never can really totally recreate a game situation. And this is Carlos Torres. This is his second outing this spring. He really got torched up pretty good his first time out. Got hit hard. You know, it's just, the drills are constant. You do around 30 minutes of it. You got so many guys that can run. Usually you use the pitchers.
Right, or the bullpen catcher.
Or nowadays they're trying to get the non-invitees, or the young kids are the ones that are out there. I never had to worry about that because I was an infield.
So I was doing the drills, yes, as opposed to being the cannon fodder in the drill.
Thank goodness. But the other side of the coin was this. In the minor leagues, was that when they had outfield drills, and here's the pickoffs you always want to work on there. You got your situation with your rundowns. You only want no more than 2 throws. That's not good. That's not acceptable.
That's what happens when you got that speedy young guy in the middle of the drill.
But the outfield drills getting to the point where they had bases loaded, runners on first, and the coaches hit gaps into the outfield, and they work on the relays from the outfielders. Well, the infielders had the run. That would be me.
And did you run full speed?
Are you kidding? 3/4.
Well, 3/4 is pretty good. I was expecting you to say something less than that. I guess I always wonder, because for years I've watched drills on backfields. And I guess a lot of the point of it is muscle memory, just so when that situation comes up, you will have done it. But when those drills are done at 3/4 speed, do they carry over into game speed? Big hop comes up for Bixler at second base, and he throws out Brantley to end the inning.
And my answer to that real quick would be yes.
Well, thank you. That's very concise.
You go to break.
I appreciate your brevity. New battery in the game for the Marlins as we go to the bottom of the sixth. JT Realmuto is on to catch, and the veteran left-hander Mike Dunn is on to pitch for Miami.
Well, former Yankee Brave and now Marlin, and he's got a great arm. And he was acquired by the Marlins. They had high hopes for him to really be the big left-hander out of that bullpen, but he just can't find the plate.
And as Brandon Hicks leads off for the Mets in the home six, we're very happy to welcome from the Mets dugout Matt Harvey, who started on the mound today. Matt, it's Gary and Keith up in the booth. How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing well. What do you think of your outing today?
Not very good, but threw some good pitches, threw some bad ones.
Now I was saying to Keith earlier, I through 10 starts in the big leagues last year, I don't think I ever heard you say that you were happy with any of your outings. And it seems as though you set an awfully high standard for yourself. Would you concur with that?
Well, I mean, like I said in the past, I don't want to be mediocre, and I strive to be the best, and there's a lot of work to do. I understand that there's about a month left, but I strive for perfection, which obviously isn't going to happen very much as a pitcher, but like I said, there's work to do, and that's why we're here.
When you look at yourself right now, where is the area where you're trying to improve the most?
Obviously today the ball strike ratio wasn't too good. The biggest goal for me is the 200 inning mark. So definitely limiting the damage and getting ahead of guys and putting them away instead of messing around and making the pitch count go up.
Any one pitch that you're working on more than the other right now, Matt?
Well, I definitely, I kind of lost my curveball towards the end of the season last year. So that was something that I really wanted to work on this offseason, and especially now. I threw a lot of good ones today. Just not quite for strikes yet, but, the field's coming back, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Matt, what was this offseason like for you, having had a taste of what the big leagues were like and getting 10 starts under your belt, knowing that you probably had yourself a spot in the rotation, and yet you're a young player looking forward to your first opening day? What was that push-pull like for you in the offseason?
A lot of work. I mean, obviously nothing's guaranteed, so I had that mentality going into the offseason. It was only 10 starts, so there's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot still to prove. And like I said, the 200 inning mark was a big mark for me this year, and whether it was working out, throwing a little bit extra, or getting the body in shape a little bit more. Coming in, I wanted to be healthy and stay healthy for the whole year.
Are you a little disappointed because there's a DH in spring and you can't swing the bat?
I think that time's coming pretty soon. But, I think the 12th is a lucky number for me.
Now you're going to have to teach young Mr. Wheeler how to swing the bat without getting hurt. You know.
I've got no comment on it.
What is your impression of him? I know you hadn't been around Zach much before this spring. What is your feel for what he brings?
I mean, obviously, his outing the other day was pretty electric. The ball jumps out of his hand. It doesn't look like he's scared at all up there, and it's like I've said, the sky's the limit. And, he's working hard to get back and definitely itching to get back, and he'll be back soon.
Do you really have much comprehension when Met fans watch you and watch Zach for the feeling that they have as Duda launches one to deep center field, and that's going to leave? So Duda having himself a nice day with an opposite field double, and now a long home run to cut it to 7-3. Do you have that feeling of just what it means to Met fans to see the two of you and have an understanding of what the future might hold, or do you not allow yourself to go there?
Well, I mean, obviously it's awesome to look at, and it's a privilege to be in that category. But I'm keeping my head down and trying to get ready for the season. And like I've said, we're trying to win now. And whether they decide to let him help the team right now, right out of the spring training, or in a couple months, or whatever they decide. That's going to be an exciting time, and everybody's looking forward to it. But spring training is a time to get ready, and like I said, after today's outing, I got a lot of work to do. So keeping my head down and going forward.
You've got an entirely different catching battery mates for this spring training. Has that been an adjustment? Have you guys been communicating together? What is that process like?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple times I've thrown to some different guys, but that takes time as well. It's spring training for a reason, so we don't jump into the fire right away with somebody new. But communication is the biggest thing. We're obviously all working on trying to get on the same page, and it's a learning experience for me too. So following the older guys, following Nice and G and Markham and Johan, obviously, and seeing how they react with each guy and how they communicate, and kind of going from there.
Matt, thanks for taking the time. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
That's Matt Harvey joining us from the Mets dugout. Lucas Duda's home run cuts the Marlins lead to 7-3. Nice to see Lucas smiling. We'll go to the 7th.
Her humanity's
Carlos Torres, who came in to get the final out in the 6th, stays on to pitch the 7th for New York. Lucas Duda comes out of the game after hitting his first home run of the spring. as Jamie Hoffman takes over in left field for Duda. And nice to see Lucas after a struggle at the beginning and a day off yesterday for a medical issue. Return to the lineup today with a double and a home run.
He swung the bat well and doubled to left center field, a short hop the wall in left center. And remember, this is a very big ballpark here at Tradition Field in St. Lucie, and then a big bomb to the deepest part of the ballpark, just to the right side of the center field monster.
Matt Downs leads off against Torres in the 7th and bounces one to short. Quintanilla circling in. One pitch and one out in the 7th.
I find it interesting. We just, those of you that weren't with us, we just got through chatting with Matt Harvey. He wasn't happy with his performance, and you kind of punctuated that, Gary. Really, he went 2 2/3 innings, gave up 3 hits, 1 run. The 1 run was the first pitch of the ball game, a home run. Struck out 4, only walked 1. I thought he threw great.
Well, he was talking about his ball strike ratio. I think it was 29-21 strikes to balls, which, you know, he'd like to have more of a 2-to-1 ratio. And again, he's very self-critical. As he said, you know, he wants to be perfect, and he knows he can't be, but he's going to strive for it every time, and that's admirable. This is Joe Mahoney, who's had a big day today with a pair of home runs, a solo shot in the 4th, a 3-run homer in the 5th. And Torres gets ahead of 0-2. But I think, you know, we were talking about it earlier. I think this is one of the things that sets Matt Harvey apart as Elvin Ramirez gets up in the Mets bullpen. He is not going to be satisfied with anything less than the best.
If he develops into what I think he's going to develop into, I think that he can be the guy with his attitude and his heart. He's hard-nosed. I love that camera angle. He could be the leader of the pitching staff down the road when he's a veteran.
Well, this is Matt Harvey today. Did give up a leadoff home run to Yelich, but then he got it in gear. 4 strikeouts in his 2 2/3.
Good breaking ball there. It's the curve he said he lost in the second half. Upstairs fastball. I'd love to see that. But the curveball he mentioned, he said he lost his curve the second half of the backside of his 10 starts. And that's something that he focused on in the offseason. That was a good one right there. We saw that for the strikeout.
I mean, he is, at his best, he has 4 quality pitches. And he's going to pitch off the fastball. But
that is, I've heard from our director, is a DC-3.
Did he say they used that for skydiving?
Yes, skydiving.
No, I didn't see anybody jumping.
I would want to go a little higher.
Yes. The higher the better.
Yes, I want a little. I want a little hang time.
Give that shoot a little cushion, just in case it doesn't work the first couple of seconds.
That's something you'd want to do.
I've never done it. I've thought about it a lot. Maybe one day.
I would like to try it.
I can't imagine there'd be many things more thrilling than jumping out of a plane.
Yep.
Unless, of course, it didn't work properly, and then it may not be quite as thrilling.
Nice knowing you.
2-2, and an emergency hack by Mahoney keeps him alive. Joe Mahoney, who came through the Baltimore farm system. He actually was born in the Albany area. Went to high school in Troy, New York, and then on to the University of Richmond. 9th pitch of the at-bat coming from Torres. And Mahoney takes a fastball for a call, 3rd strike. Torres dialing it up to 93 to get his first strikeout.
Got caught looking.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Austin Kearns, 1 for 3 on the day. Single to right back in the 4th. Wind is really kicking up. You've been talking all day about how it has aided the home runs to right field today. But
you can see the flags.
Hear the wind running through the microphones.
Yep. And that's that north wind. That's blowing from the north.
Thus the 60-degree temperatures here.
Down to 30 tonight.
Florida.
Down to 30s tonight.
Does that mean the citrus is in peril?
Not so sure about that, but it's very rare that I have to turn the heater on when I'm down in Florida when I go to bed at night. I had to do it last night. I left it at 66, and I heard it churning up a few times in the middle of the night. It got colder. Where did it start blowing in the middle of the night? My backyard, my master bedroom faces north, so when the wind blows from the north, I know when it's blowing.
Do you think you'll be donning your fur-lined coat? Is it quite to that level?
No, not at all. That's Philadelphia, Minneapolis, and Denver.
That's our first road trip this year.
I'll be wearing my Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson fur.
So you don't have another level you can go to, say if it's 25 in Minneapolis for that Friday night game.
Well, we have our SNY parkas.
But that doesn't go well with the fur-lined coat, so how do you choose?
Well, we'll have to deal with it when the time comes, Gary.
It's ball 4 and Kearns is on with a 2-out walk. It'll be quite the fashion decision.
I may get a hat. I may get a hat for up there.
Well, like one of those Russian
I just might, for kicks.
Like the one Scalia wore at the inauguration.
Was that what he wore?
Yeah.
There's one. That's an idea.
That may not be quite as warm. Might be a little sticky too.
Wear those Great White North hunter hats with the flaps.
With the flaps, like the McKenzie brothers.
Elmer Fudd.
Ball 1 to Chris Coughlin, who was 1 for 3 on the day. Rabbit hunting. And Torres, after getting the first 2 outs, having trouble finding the strike zone. Now behind on Coughlin, 2-0. Yeah, it's funny how things work in baseball sometimes. Chris Coughlin, who came up in 2009, had a remarkable year, hit over 300, won Rookie of the Year honors. And since then, nothing has gone right for Coughlin, to the point where last year his big league batting average was 140. So a base hit here is second of the day. Kearns pulls in at second. And, you know, it's not the first time that's happened with a Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Joe Charbonneau a number of years back with the Indians. Dontrell Willis and the way his career flamed out. Sometimes success is gained early, but only for the short term. That is Marcell Ozuna, another one of the players the Marlins got in their big trade with Toronto. So he runs for Coughlin. And sometimes you wonder, Keith, what that is. Is that the league catching up to a particular player? Is it just a fortunate season that you're not able to recreate?
I think as far as Rookie of the Years are concerned, you can just get on a roll, and then the next year they find out your weakness. You know, they find you out. If you've got a weakness, they'll find it. And it's amazing that it's not discovered the rookie year, but that's just you can't just put the game in a computer and it'll spit out. It's just things that happen that for reasons you can't explain.
Baxter into foul ground, but he runs out of room.
And look at the great first year that Fred Lynn had. My goodness, back at what was that? 75 when they went to the World Series.
Of the year and MVP.
Fred Lynn, of course, came out of the University of Southern California, All-American, and just took the American League by storm.
Jim Rice was a rookie that year too. Both.
That's right.
Rookie outfielders in 75.
I played against Jim Rice in my first year. I was 18 in the Florida State League. He was with the Winter Haven Red Sox.
0-2 now to Green, who was a pair of doubles today. The breaking ball fouled off.
So, yeah, that league had Doug. Tampa was the Reds. Ray Knight was over there. Joel Youngblood was on that team. Doug Flynn, Pat Zachary. That was
all those future Mets.
Yes, that's why I brought it up.
Of course, Flynn and Zachary were all part of the Seaver trade in 77. Yep. Dan Norman and Stevie Henderson.
Tampa won that division. We were the West Division, and Tampa won that year. The Reds, they won that, I believe.
Two on and two out. Torres trying to put the inning to bed. And Green takes the curveball that misses. 1-2. Carlos Torres, the fourth Met pitcher of the day. Matt Harvey went 2 2/3, allowed a run on 3 hits. Colin McHugh, an inning and a third, a run and 3 hits. Hansel Robles, an inning and 2/3, 5 runs and 4 hits. Over the mound, tough play for Quintanilla, but it'll be the second baseman Bixler able to make the play, and they get the force to end the inning. Marlins leave 2, 7th inning stretch. They're up 7-3. This tour of Tradition Field is brought to you by Time Warner Cable. Switch to Time Warner Cable and enjoy better. If the Palms only knew it was going to be so chilly today, they might have gone further south. But after 90-degree temperatures just a few days ago, a cool afternoon in Port St. Lucie, the backfields, which were humming earlier today, sitting idle right now as the Mets and Marlins do battle in the big stadium. Changes for the Marlins. Marcelo Zuna stays in the game in right field after pinch running. And A.J. Ramos will be the new pitcher for Miami.
Well, he's penciled in to be in this bullpen. He's got a good shot to break. 11 games for the Marlins last year, 9 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 4 walks, 13 Ks.
Mike Baxter up for the first time, takes a strike. Baxter now playing in right field. Andrew Brown started there, went 1 for 2 and drove in a run. A.J. Ramos out of Texas Tech, 26 years old. Baxter takes a strike, and it's 0-2.
Red Raider.
See, I was gonna say that he's taking on the former Columbia Lion, Mike Baxter, but it's not fair because, after all, Baxter only spent a year on Morningside Heights and then deserted us and went to Vanderbilt.
2 pretty good universities education-wise.
Vandy probably has the edge baseball-wise, which is
basketball too.
That's why Mike made the move.
And football.
To the right side and off the glove of Downs, and Baxter is safe at first. Just split the difference between Mahoney and Downs on the right side of the infield. Actually, that's Ed Lucas now playing second base. At And so Baxter gets credit for an infield hit. The Mets have a leadoff base runner in the home seventh. Now Travis d'Arnaud will bat for the first time.
Well, the big man in the trade right here. It's a French name there, d'Arnaud.
Now, I don't know if you've gotten a good look at the back of Travis's uniform as this one's popped up. And right near the dugout, it is beyond the reach of Mahoney. On the back of Travis's uniform, they've got the lowercase d, which is proper.
Right.
The thing about it is, if you look closely at that lowercase d, it's actually not a lowercase d. It's a P upside down. Now, you would think that if Travis is going to be the player that we anticipate that he's going to be, that they would craft a special lowercase d for the back of his uniform rather than simply turning a P upside down.
Agreed.
So Kevin Kieris, the Mets equipment manager, I'm sure will be working on that. Now, Travis's brother, Chase d'Arnaud, has already played in the big leagues with the Pirates, and the Pirates did the same thing. They took a P and turned it upside down to spell Chase's name as well. That one skips away. And down to second base goes Baxter on the wild pitch.
Boy, there's been a lot of wild pitches in this game. 3 on this side. Yep, just 3. All from Marlin pitchers.
JT Realmuto, the catcher. d'Arnaud drives one to left field. Back goes Yelich, and that's going to be beyond his reach and up against the wall. Baxter is in to score. Travis d'Arnaud with an extra base hit, and that cuts the Marlins lead to 7-4.
Like his swing. Little leg kick. Stayed in there. He's a strong kid, too. I saw him walking around the clubhouse, and he is fit.
You know,
he's strong.
Yeah, he's not a big guy, but he is built very square. For d'Arnaud, his first extra base hit of the spring. He's now 5 for 10. And here's Zach Lutz, who drove in a run with a base hit in the 5th inning. You talk to Terry Collins and some of the scouts about d'Arnaud. They talk about his hands and just how much bat speed he's able to generate as yet another one gets by to the backstop, and d'Arnaud goes over to third.
That's got to be a pass ball right there. Got to catch that.
The official scorer agrees.
Don't ever contradict me.
Whoever would. 2-0 now to Lutz. Infield back with the Marlins up 7-4 in the 7th. And Lutz pulls one foul. 2-1. d'Arnaud at third with nobody out. And that catches the corner 2-2. Did you happen to stay up late last night and watch the opening game of the World Baseball Classic?
I did not. I told you I went to bed to get prepared to be really fresh for this game, and I woke up at 4 and couldn't go back to sleep.
So you woke up a little late to see the end of the game between Taiwan and Australia, as this one's driven at deep left field. Back goes Yelich, and this is off the fence. An extra base hit for Lutz. d'Arnaud is in to score. Lutz pulls it at second. His second hit, his second RBI of the day, and now it's 7-5. So 3 straight hits for New York to start the bottom of the 7th.
Another guy, the leg kick, Lutz, stays in, likes that ball down. Now, tell me about the opening game.
Well, the most pertinent thing that happened was that Chen Ming Wang, who's looking for a big league job, threw 6 scoreless innings for Taiwan.
Did Brazil almost beat Japan? Japan came back and beat Brazil.
I did not see the result.
I thought I saw that. Japan.
See, now you're well ahead of me.
I read the paper today. They came back late to beat Brazil, who knocked out Panama, right?
Brazil knocked out Panama in the qualifying. That's right. Here's Juan Lagares batting for the first time.
Gary, you're leaving us now. You're not for you. We won't be back for 3 weeks.
Well, I know you'll be in capable hands. Ozuna moves back along the line to grab it, and tagging at second is Lutz moving over to third. Kevin Burkhardt will be here to carry you through the next few weeks. In fact, Kevin's getting the day off today, and you know why, right?
Yes, he's a birthday boy.
It's his birthday, and it's one of those birthdays that you want to hang on to for a while. Kevin turns 39 today. 40's
always a biggie, but then again, 50 is, and this year I'll be 60 in October.
And you're willing to admit to that?
Oh, think about it. Not much left for me, you know. I got to cram it in.
I figure you got another good 40 years.
Oh, well, I'll be happy with 20. It's very sobering.
Well, happy birthday to Kevin. And,
yes.
And I didn't want to start a whole thing where you got all depressed on me. And
it's fine.
About your longevity. Quintanilla drives one to center. And this one's going to get over the head of Marisnik and roll to the wall. In to score is Lutz. All the way to third goes Quintanilla with a triple. So Omar Quintanilla in at 400 feet to center field to drive in a run and cut the Marlins lead to 7-6. And my apologies, that's not Marisnik. That's Brian Peterson now playing center field. Marisnik probably would have caught
it. Well, extra base hit city here for the Metsies.
So the Mets have scored 3 runs here in the 7th, the game where they once trailed 7-2. It's now 7-6 as Dan Jennings gets open the Marlins bullpen, and now Miami will bring the infield in. Brandon Hicks the batter with Quintanilla at third. Hicks up for the second time, grounded out to third in the 6th inning. That's now with 6 runs and 9 hits. The Marlins 7 runs and 11 hits. It's of a single, 2 doubles, and a triple in this inning against A.J. Ramos. And Hicks takes a strike, 0-2. Swing and a miss, and Ramos strikes out Hicks on 3 pitches. So 2 out. Quintanilla is still at third. And now Landon Powell will come up for the second time. Took over the DH spot for Marlon Byrd. Powell popped up his first at bat. Elvin Ramirez back up in the Mets bullpen. Powell takes ball 1. Landon Powell, veteran catcher, trying to win the backup role behind John Buck on the opening day roster, competing with Anthony Recker for that job. And Powell takes a strike 1-1. I don't know if you saw it the other day, but Landon and his wife opened up to Andy Martino of the Daily News, who wrote a very compelling story about Landon
and his bride losing their infant child to a rare disease just a month ago. They had twin girls who were born in September, and one of them had this rare disease which required operation after operation. And we talked about just how difficult it was, at the same time how inspiring it was, the battle that little Izzy put up before finally succumbing to that illness a month ago. Imagine?
No, I can't.
Strike 3 called. Powell's down looking. Ramos with back-to-back strikeouts preserves the lead for the Marlins, but the Mets get 3 on 4 hits. 7-6 Miami after 7. The 8th inning, Mets down by a run. Elvin Ramirez will take over the pitching for New York.
Well, there were Elvin's numbers last year with the Mets. He was a diamond in the rough. You can see the walks, way too many. 20 to 21 in the third innings. That is ding, 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 ding. That's alarm bells. Too many hits, too, so you figure that's 44 base runners. My goodness, and 21 in the third. But he's a hard thrower, got a splitter. And he just needs to get it honed together if he's going to make it to the big leagues. He's got the arm.
Zach Cox will be up for the first time for Miami as we go to the 8th inning. Cox playing third base. Came over from the Cardinals organization last summer. Played AA and AAA last year. Hit .254 with 10 home runs. Ramirez, the 5th Met pitcher of the afternoon. Matt Harvey started. And Cox grounds the first one through the hole for a leadoff hit. That's a dozen hits now for Miami. And they get the leadoff man on in the 8th.
Well, this game so far is every time the Mets have mounted a comeback, the Marlins have answered.
Now Kyle Jensen will bat for the first time. Let's say we've not done a very good job of keeping up with the Marlins changes today.
Oh.
So that's something you'll work on while I'm gone?
Was that what was the America's hit? A horse with no name?
Yeah.
There's a lot of names out here we're not familiar with.
Well, but that doesn't mean we can't keep up with who's in the game. I mean, we're sitting here philosophizing about life, and
yes,
the parade of Marlins is passing us by.
Our ship has sailed.
Well, I guess that's the point. If we keep up with who's in the game, maybe we'll get a few more rides on the merry-go-round. Jensen out of St. Mary's College in California. They just got slapped with 4 years of NCAA probation.
Who did?
Not the baseball program, the basketball program. St. Mary's. They bring in all those Australian players. Apparently, not everything was on the up and up. Jensen last year played in Double-A in 234, but 24 home runs. And there's ball 4. So Ramirez off to a shaky start. First 2 men on against him. So 2 aboard. And now Brian Peterson will bat for the first time.
That's St. Mary's in California?
Yeah.
Okay, I know St. Mary's College.
Moraga, California.
Yes.
You've been there.
Yeah.
They got a beautiful gym there. It's just one of those little bandboxes. Great home court advantage.
Well, they're a rival, big rivals, Gonzaga,
yep.
Correct?
Take that. So here's Peterson up for the first time. He's an anteater, Peterson. Cal Irvine. Played a lot second half last year for Miami. Hit just 195, and here it's a double play ball, but it's mishandled by Bixler, and then he throws it off the camera box to boot, and that'll bring Cox all the way around to score.
Did he throw that ball away, or did Lutz not think it was coming?
I don't know, but that can easily be 2 errors on Bixler. The first one for booting it.
Let's see.
The second one for chucking it away.
No, that's
not even close.
Not even close. Well, it's tailor-made, and you're trying to make a ball club where you don't want to do that. So the Marlins once again answer to the Mets' comeback attempt.
So it's now 8-6, and the official score charitably will charge only 1 error on the play. And now this is JT Realmuto, the catcher, batting for the first time.
And the Mets in a normal game, would they concede a run here? I'd be in at the corners, try to cut that run off.
Get the pop up. That'll keep the runners planted. Bixler one-hands it, and that's the first out of the inning. So 1 out, runners at the corners, and now Ed Lucas will bat for the first time. The Marlins fans trying to make noise.
Yes.
On the road. All those colors. First and third and 1 out. And Lucas pops one up in foul ground. A long run. And Bixler sliding, can't get to it. So Bixler back in his position after a long run. Lucas, the batter, a product of Dartmouth College. There have been a nice smattering of Big Green in the big leagues over the years. Brad Ausmus went to Dartmouth. Pete Broberg. If you go back far enough, Red Rolfe, for whom the field is named at Dartmouth. That pit could be a double play. This time Bixler handles it cleanly, and Quintanilla turns it over. An active inning for Brian Bixler, and it ends well with a 4-6-3 double play. But the Marlins scratch out a run and lead 8-6 in the 8th.
So
We go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Left-hander Dan Jennings comes on to pitch for the Marlins. He got in 22 games for Miami late last year. Product of the University of Nebraska. He figures to be the second lefty in that Miami bullpen this year with Mike Dunn. Mets will have Jamie Hoffman leading off in the bottom of the 8th inning. Hoffman batting for the first time, took over for Lucas Duda in left field, and Duda is one of the headlines today for the Mets. Lucas returning to the lineup after missing yesterday's game, and hit an opposite field double and a long home run in his 3 at-bats today. So Hoffman bats for the first time, and he takes ball 1. Hoffman, a big guy who can run, a hockey player from New Ulm, Minnesota. In fact, he was drafted in the NHL. He takes a ball and a strike. Jennings, the 6th pitcher of the afternoon for Miami. Jamie Hoffman, an 8th round pick by the Carolina Hurricanes. And then he drives one down the left field line, and that drops for a base hit. Jensen over to play it, and Hoffman will hold it first with a leadoff single. So the Mets have their 10th hit of the game. It would appear as though the official score has backed off on his leniency. In other words, double error. Brian Bixler has now been charged with 2 errors on that one play in the 8th inning, and I think rightly so. Now he has a chance to make up for it with his bat. Bixler is a guy, when he's had big league time, he's always shown off terrific speed, but never made quite enough contact to stick. And he's got an opportunity here in camp with the Mets. The thing about Brian is he can play just about anywhere. Here's the side armor. Greg Burke up in the Mets bullpen, getting ready to pitch the top of the 9th. Ball and a strike to Bixler with Mike Baxter on deck. Bixler's at big league time with Pittsburgh and Washington, and last year 88 at bats with Houston. Lifetime 189 big league hitter. Scoreboard still says 59 degrees, Keith.
Yeah, it's going to drop.
Off-speed pitch hit well to center field. Peterson gets turned around, and that ball is out of here. Wow. Brian Bixler ties the game with a 2-run homer. Well, that'll make up for a couple of errors. Bixler crushing one to center field. He's only hit 2 home runs in 323 career major league at-bats. But he got all that one. And we're even at 8-8.
Well, this is one of those games.
Mets were down 7-2, and they've come all the way back to get even.
Right down the middle. Nice swing on it.
Now Mike Baxter up for his second turn at bat. What a roller coaster you can ride in one inning, even in spring training. You're trying to make a ball club, make a really bad play. You come up just short trying to catch a pop-up. Then you turn a double play and hit a 2-run homer. And all of a sudden, all's well with the world. Ball strike to Baxter, and it's 0-2. What did Murph say? It's a game of redeeming features.
Well, Murph saw enough of games. Take him on his word.
Action in the Miami bullpen. Rowley Alara, the left-hander. Meanwhile, Jennings has given up a single and a 2-run homer to the first 2 to face him. Mets didn't have a hit for the first 4 innings of this game. They now have 8 runs and 11 hits. Travis d'Arnaud on deck. And that just misses. Full count to Baxter. Didn't get a whole lot of at-bats against lefties last year.
He stays in on lefties, though, but he's primarily going to be a guy that's going to face the right-handers.
Down the left field side, and it foul ground. That'll land untouched. When you watch Suki and Francis on the Pix 11 Morning News, you get more of what you want in the morning. More news, more weather, more fun. The Pix 11 Morning News, weekday morning, starting at 4 a.m. So you could have been up and watching this morning, Keith. Up at 4, you could have been tuning right into the Pix Morning News.
I don't get New York stations down.
You know my point.
Yeah, I understand. I'll keep that in mind.
Next time.
When I have a sleepless night.
There you go.
Or if I come home late.
Baxter goes down swinging on the fastball. And so Jennings finally gets his first out.
Just beat him upstairs.
So one away now, Travis d'Arnaud, who drove a double to left center to drive in a run in his first at bat of the day. Travis now 5 for 10 in spring training. And d'Arnaud bounces one down to third. Cox makes the throw across the diamond in time, 2 away. So 2 out and nobody on in the bottom of the 8th, and now Zach Lutz, who's had a nice day. A single, a double, 2 RBIs. Started the game at third base, moved over to first base. And he takes a strike from Jennings.
A lot of crooked numbers up there on that scoreboard.
Marlins 8 runs, 12 hits. The Mets 8 runs, 11 hits. Each team has made 2 errors. On a cool windswept afternoon on the Treasure Coast of Florida. Feels like today? Feels like college football weather.
Good point.
Could be in Ann Arbor right now on a Saturday in late October. The blankets are out.
It's a fall day up north. You're right.
So just like college baseball for Zach Lutz, like the days at Alvernia. Mets shirt, Jets jacket.
He just knocked her glasses. Oh, she's hot. Woke her up.
It's a lazy day at the ballpark.
She wants to go home.
Lutz tries to hold. Stopped it in time. 3-2.
These are the real baseball fans that are here today. It's cold and it's been a long, kind of poorly played game. Grass has probably grown a couple inches by now.
Bose and his ground crew will be out taking care of that. There's ball 4, and so Lutz is on base for the 3rd time today. So 2 out and a runner aboard. That, amongst all the base runners we've seen today, is the first walk that the Marlins pitchers have allowed. Now Juan Lagares up for the second time. Lagares flied out to right, is only at bat.
Someone's getting really raucous down there.
Well, the one thing about being in a small crowd at a spring training game, if you choose to vocalize, you will be well heard.
Well, I can tell you, tried Cleveland in 1990
in the old ballpark
when I played that year. Tried Candlestick Park back in the days when the Giants were terrible in the 70s. And we mustn't forget Shea Stadium. Those down years of the late 70s, mid to late 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s. They'd occasionally have to close off the upper deck. The crowds were so small. Lagares chops one to the second baseman, Lucas. And that'll do it for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. But the Mets, who were 5 runs down at one point in this game, get even as Brian Bixler turns around what had been a tough half inning at the top of the 8th. And has himself a ball in the bottom of the 8th with a 2-run homer. We're tied 8-8 going to the 9th. Changes for the Mets as we go to the 9th inning. Josh Satin comes in to play first base. Cesar Puello is now in right field. And the 30-year-old sidearmer Greg Burke will pitch the 9th inning for New York.
Well, converted to a submariner. And good year last year. And there you see the submarine. He's going to be a sinker ball pitcher. Going to have trouble with lefties, because all submariners have a hard time throwing inside.
Joe Mahoney's hit 2 home runs today, a solo shot and a 3-run blast. And Burke misses away 2-0. Well, Greg Burke was a conventional pitcher until last spring, and his career was at a crossroads. He had pitched briefly in the big leagues in 2009 with San Diego. He was in camp with Baltimore and was basically on the verge of getting released. And he had worked a little bit on the potential of being a sidearmer, and Rick Peterson, who was the O's director of pitching development, said, sure, try it. And he went in a game, and all of a sudden his fastball was 5 miles an hour faster, and he went to the minors last year and had himself a terrific season, resurrecting his career. See, it turned out he was the guy that Peterson could fix in 10 minutes. I'm just teasing. Rick had a enormous positive influence on this franchise when he was here. Fouled away 3-2.
It was very interesting, Rick. It was a little bit of a, I would have to say, and I say this, it's not as a negative. He was a bit of an oddball.
Sure.
Of all the coaches of all my teams that I played for, minor leagues and in the big leagues, that's 20 years.
Mahoney hits one out to left, and Hoffman is right there.
Usually the coaches are up front in the bus and, with the manager. And Rick never sat with the coaches. When he came on the bus, he would go to the very, very back of the bus, the last row by the bathroom all the time. I never saw that before.
Back where the broadcasters sit.
Exactly.
And so the nice part about that is got to have some really nice long conversations with Rick, who was fascinating to listen to because he's about as much a Renaissance man as any baseball coach you're going to be around. The problem I had having conversations with Rick is that my hearing is not 100%, and Rick is a very low talker. So you have to really lean in to hear what he had to say.
But you understand why you can't hear very good, don't you?
Well, partially it's because of all those concerts I went to as a kid.
You went to a lot?
Like going to see the Ramones and standing right in front of the speakers. That'll blow out your ears. Austin Kearns strikes out for the second out. As a consequence of that, I have to wear my headset very loud, and that makes it worse.
And folks, we have a box in front of us, and we have 2 dials for each ear. So think in terms of a clock. So if we want to turn off the volume on our ear, the dial would be at 6 o'clock. I put my dial around 8 o'clock. Gary's got his sometimes over at 3 o'clock. So
getting toward 3:30.
He's killing his eardrums.
It's been a long-term process. It's what you call an occupational hazard.
I try to keep mine down low as possible, but then, when you have it low, you don't get the effect of the game. You kind of get tuned out with the sound of the crowd. If you keep it low, and then you got to turn it up a little bit to at least get a feel of the game going around us. Because we got these earphones on and a headset on, so we rely on our sound guys here, and so what are you going to do?
Well, as Ozuna has a base hit in his first at bat. So the Marlins have a 2-out base runner against Burke. Here's my feeling about keeping the headset turned up loud. Number one, I don't want to miss anything that you have to say.
Well, I understand that.
And then number two, I don't want to miss anything that I might be saying, because if I can't hear myself well, I might say something I don't intend to, and that would be bad.
You can correct yourself that quickly?
I'm just saying. I have to keep an eye on myself. Or an ear, as the case may be. This is Chris Valaika, who took over at shortstop a couple innings back. He'll be batting for the first time. We had the go-ahead run at first to 2 out. We're 8-8 in the ninth. What we don't know is how many more pitchers either team has. The other night, the Mets and Nats played 10 innings. Henry Mejia is up now in the Mets bullpen. So it looks like the Mets have at least one more arm available. So we could play an extra inning if it comes to that. You never know in spring training. Ooh, there's a nice grab by Joe Espada, who they've been aiming at all day down at third base. There's Mejia, who got a late start in camp this year because of a visa issue. They wanted to make sure that he was who he said he was and was the same age he said he was, and it turned out that he was on both counts, that he was Henry and that he was 23. Off the fist, a little dunker into shallow right. On comes Cuello to make the grab, and that retires the side. A hit and one left. Mets come up in the bottom of the ninth, trying to win it in an 8-8 game.
New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Acela. Take off. By Verizon. Switch to Verizon Fios for America's fastest, most consistent, most reliable internet. By Citi Thank You Cards. And by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Well, David Wright is away at the World Baseball Classic. Somebody needs to fill his uniform. So why not Jay Horwitz?
Well, we're very hopeful that when David gets older in retirement, he doesn't look like Jay. Hopefully keeps himself in a little better shape.
24-year-old Braulio Lara will take over the pitching as we go to the last of the 9th inning. Lara was in the Tampa Bay organization as a starter last year in A-ball. Wilmer Flores pinch hits for the Mets, and he takes low and inside for ball 1. Flores has been getting time at second base this spring. First came up as a shortstop. They played him at third last year. And he checks his swing and held it in time. 2-0. And I guess you could ask the same question of Flores that we were asking of Lutz earlier on in the evening. Would you consider trying Flores at a corner outfield spot to see whether he might be able to lend some support there? Takes a strike, 2-1. Flores, who's been a prime prospect in the Mets organization since he was a 16-year-old. Everybody agrees he's going to hit. Question is, where is he going to play? Grounded toward the hole, and Flores has a leadoff hit. So the Mets get the winning run aboard to start the 9th inning. And now let's see if Terry Collins plays it like a regular season game. He's got Brandon Hicks, who would be a guy you might use to bunt, coming up. Wilfredo Tovar will come in to run for Flores at first base to add a little speed there. So here is Hicks, who's 0 for 2. He's grounded to third and struck out. We'll see whether Terry plays for the bunt. Got Landon Powell waiting on deck, a right-hand batter, but Hicks ready to swing, and he launches one to center field, but Peterson drifts back and is standing under it. Tovar goes back to tag, and he's going to try for second. The throw coming in from Peterson, and he's out at second base. Now Tovar trying to make something happen, but thrown out trying to go from first to second on the fly ball, and there are 2 out and nobody on.
Well, it took a perfect throw to get him. You had time to backpedal and get a little momentum forward, and it's a perfect throw, one hop.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Landon Powell. Powell up for the 3rd time. He's popped up and struck out. It would appear as though we're going to play at least one extra inning if the Mets don't win it right here, because each team has a pitcher throwing in the bullpen. Henry Mejia up in the Mets bullpen. And that is Raudel Lazo up in the Miami bullpen. Now there's Jay Horwitz, now back in more conventional gear, although he still has David's wristband on his right wrist. Now Lara behind on Powell, 3-0, with Jamie Hoffman waiting on deck. The Marlins 8 runs and 13 hits. The Mets 8 runs and 12 hits. Each team has committed 2 errors. Mets were down 7-2. They tied it up on Brian Bixler's 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th. Lights have been on for some time. And Powell takes a strike, 3-1. Remember when the Giants played at Candlestick Park and they play an extra inning game there? The fans who waited it out for the extra innings got a special prize. Powell pops it up. Cox, the third baseman, looking for it. And we have gotten through 9 tied. It would appear we are going to go to extra innings here in Port St. Lucie. Henry Mejia set to pitch the 10th inning for New York. Mets and Marlins tied at 8.
Well, as it turns out, the Mets and Marlins are not going to play extra innings today. So for the third time in 8 games this spring, the Mets play to a tie. This is an 8-8 tie, as Terry Collins, once that 9th inning was done, let the Marlins and Mike Redmond know that we weren't going to go any further. 3 hours and 12 minutes of baseball having been enough on this afternoon, but the Mets got some encouraging signs from Lucas Duda today with a double and a home run. Our next Picks telecast will be March the 17th when the Mets take on the Braves here in Port St. Lucie. Our next SNY telecast will be on Monday afternoon from here in Port St. Lucie when the Mets take on the Braves. So Matt Harvey making his second start of the spring. Lucas Duda with a double and a home run. Brian Bixler ties the game with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th to send the Mets and the Marlins to an 8-8 tie this afternoon in Port St. Lucie. Now for Keith Hernandez and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Cohen at Tradition Field. Our next broadcast on Monday. We'll see you then here on Mets Baseball.